Hello, 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 super culture explorers. Earth stars, welcome to Lucky English for Beginners. I'm your host, and today we are jumping into the most exciting adventure ever, world cultures, peace sign stars. We're going to shout, dance, imagine, taste imaginary foods, and speak loud English about how people live, celebrate, eat, and have fun all around the world. The world is full of colors, sounds, stories, and smiles, and every culture is special. Are you ready to become a world culture expert? Yell, "Yes, let's explore," right now. Fantastic. Say every sentence after me. Do the actions, make the sounds, pretend you're there, and tell me in the comments your favorite culture or tradition at the end. Grab your imaginary backpack. Let's go around the world. Rocket ship. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so we can discover more cultures together every week. Wow, the world has so many cultures. Each one is like a treasure box. What do you think culture means? Culture is how people live, eat, dance, celebrate, speak, and share stories. Shout, "Culture is awesome." In India, they celebrate Holi, the festival of colors. Throw imaginary colors, red, blue, green, splash, splash, rainbow stars. Say, "Happy Holi," and pretend to hug a friend with colors all over. Do you like colorful parties? Quick dance. Wiggle like you're dancing in Holi. Shake, shake. Dancing star. In Mexico, Day of the Dead is happy. Families make colorful altars and eat sweet bread. Yum. Bread star. Say, "Feliz Dia de los Muertos." Happy Day of the Dead. Pretend you're making a sugar skull. Draw one in the air. Skull, skull. Star, star. Would you eat pan de muerto? Shout, "Yes, delicious." In Japan, they have cherry blossom parties. Pink flowers everywhere. Flower star. Can you make flower shapes with your hands? Say, "Sakura," cherry blossom. Pretend you're having a picnic under cherry trees. Sit down and say, "Sushi, starfish." Chinese New Year, dragons dance in the streets. Roar and wiggle like a dragon, dragon star. Say, "Gong Xi Fai Chai," Happy New Year in Chinese. Families eat dumplings. Pretend to eat one. Chomp, chomp. Fireworks boom. Make explosion sounds. Boom, boom. Fireworks star. In Brazil, carnival. Everyone dances samba. Shake your hips fast. Dancing star. Say, "Hola," hello in Brazil, and samba with me. Colorful costumes. Pretend you're wearing feathers. Twirl, twirl. Maasai people in Kenya jump super high. Jump like them. Boing, boing, boing. Rabbit star. They wear bright red clothes and make beautiful beaded jewelry. Make a necklace in the air. Say, "Jambo," hello in Kenya. Jambo Hans. In Italy, they love pasta and pizza. Twirl your fork. Spaghetti spin. Spaghetti star. Say, "Buongiorno," good morning in Italy. Pretend you're eating pizza. Big bite. Mamma mia. In Sweden, they have fika, coffee break with friends and cakes. Sip, sip, coffee star. Say, "Hey," hello in Sweden. Would you love a sweet fika time? Shout, "Yes, please." Diwali in India, festival of lights. Light lamps and eat sweets. Star, star. Say, "Happy Diwali," and pretend to light a diya, lamp. In Russia, they celebrate Maslenitsa with pancakes and fun games. Flip a pancake. Whoosh. Pancake star. Say, "Privet," hello in Russia. Which festival would you like to join? Holi, Carnival, Chinese New Year? Quick game. Pick one culture and say hello in their language. Go, go, go. Pretend you're traveling. Stamp your passport. Stamp, stamp. Airplane star. Every culture has yummy food. Pizza, dumplings, curry, tacos. What's your favorite food? Music and dance are everywhere. Drums, guitars, flutes. Play air drums. Drum star. Stories and folk tales. Grandmas and grandpas tell amazing tales. Tell me one word from a story. People wear special clothes. Kimonos, saris, sombreros, kilts. Pretend to wear one. All cultures love family, friends, and fun. We are the same inside. Heart star. Learning cultures makes us kind and curious. Do you promise to be kind? Say, "I promise." Say it super loud. The world is full of amazing cultures. Earth stars. We must respect every culture, big or small. Imagine visiting one country. Where and why? Make your best happy face from any culture right now. J star. Cultures teach us new ways to smile, eat, play, and love. You are now a little world culture explorer. Who wants more culture adventures? Raise your hand high. Hand star. One more time, shout with me. World cultures are fantastic. Peace sign star. You are the best English learners and culture friends in the whole world. High five the screen. Star star. Wow, wow, wow. You spoke so much exciting English today. Peace sign star. You danced, shouted, imagined festivals, and learned about beautiful cultures. Practice these fun sentences every day and dream about world adventures tonight. In the comments, write, my favorite culture or festival is, I want to try food, dance, hello word. Hello from my culture is, like this video if you danced samba, jumped like Maasai, or roared like a dragon. Dragon star, dancing star. Subscribe to Lucky English for Beginners and hit the bell so we can explore more cultures together. See you on our next world journey. Bye-bye, little culture stars. Earth star, star, star. Hello, 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 super story explorers. Earth stars, star, stars. Welcome to Lucky English for Beginners. I'm your host, and today we are diving into the magical world of African storytelling traditions. Lion star, book star, fire star. We're going to shout, imagine campfires, make animal sounds, dance a little, and speak loud English about how Africans tell stories, share wisdom, and keep history alive. African stories are full of clever animals, brave heroes, funny tricks, and big lessons passed down by voice, not books. Are you ready to become a master storyteller like the griots? Yell, yes, tell me a story right now. Yay! Say every sentence after me. Do the actions. Roar like a lion, trick like a Nancy, and tell me in the comments your favorite story or proverb at the end. Gather around the imaginary fire. Let's begin. Fire star. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so we can hear more amazing African tales together every week. Wow! In Africa, stories are told by mouth, no books needed. Shout, oral tradition is power. Elders and griots sit under the stars and tell tales by moonlight. Can you see the fire crackling? Stories teach lessons, share history, and make everyone laugh. Do you love stories? Shout, yes! Griots are the superheroes of West Africa. They are storytellers, singers, historians, and musicians. Griots remember everything: kings, battles, family trees going back hundreds of years. Wow! Pretend you're a griot, hold your imaginary kora, a cool string instrument, and strum, strum. Say it loud like a griot. I am the keeper of memory. In West Africa, Anansi the spider is the famous trickster, Spider Star. He's small but so clever. Anansi tricks bigger animals with smarts, not strength. Can you think like Anansi? Pretend you're Anansi. Spin a web with your hands and say, hee hee, I tricked you. Anansi stories teach, be wise, not greedy. What lesson do you think? Shout it, Anansi the spider is the cleverest of all. In many African tales, animals talk and act like people. Roar like a lion. Roar! Lion star. The tortoise is tricky in some stories, the hare in others. Who is your favorite animal character? Stories explain why things are, like why the sky is high or why spiders make webs. Quick game, make your best animal sound from an African story. Go, go, go. Proverbs are short, wise sayings in every story. They pack big lessons. Example, it takes a village to raise a child. Everyone helps. Do you agree? Shout yes. Another one, until the lion tells his story, the hunter will always be the hero. Tell both sides. Say a proverb loud. Wisdom is like a baobab tree. No one can hug it alone. Teamwork. Tree star. Proverbs make stories stronger. Elders drop them like magic words. Call and response is fun. Griot says something, everyone shouts back. Try it. Griot, Anansi is clever. You, very clever. Repeat after me, louder. In storytelling time, kids listen, clap, sing along. It's a party. Party star. Pretend you're at a village fire. Clap, clap, clap. Stories build community. Everyone feels connected. Do stories do that for you? Griots play music while telling. Drums, kora, singing. Pretend to drum. Boom, boom. Drum star.
Stories travel far, and Nancy went to the Caribbean too. Amazing. Which story do you want to hear? Anansi tricks, a brave hero, a funny animal? Quick challenge. Make up a tiny ending for an Anansi story right now. Say it super proud. African stories are full of wisdom and fun. Firestar, Bookstar. Griots are respected like kings. They advise leaders too. Stories keep culture alive even today. In tough times, stories gave hope and strength. Every African story has a moral. Be kind, be smart, work hard. Imagine sitting under the moon listening to a griot. How do you feel? Stories are free. Anyone can listen and learn. Tell me, what lesson from an African story do you like? Make your best griot voice right now, deep and strong. Say it with power. Stories connect us to our ancestors. African storytelling is alive today in songs, books, movies. We must listen and share these stories. Promise? Say, I promise. Cultures are different, but stories teach the same big things. Love, courage, cleverness. Who wants to be a storyteller when they grow up? Raise your hand high. One more time, shout with me. African stories are incredible. Firestar, Bookstar. Stories are treasures. Never stop listening. You are now a little African story keeper. Dream about Anansi or a griot tonight. Shout it one last time. I love African storytelling. Star Star. You are the best English learners and story lovers in the whole world. High five the screen. High five. Lion Star. Wow, wow, wow. You spoke so much exciting English today. You roared, tricked like Anansi, clapped, and learned about griots and wise proverbs. Practice these fun sentences every day and tell a story to your family tonight. In the comments, write, my favorite African story character is Anansi, tortoise, lion. My favorite proverb is, I want to hear more about West Africa, proverbs, griots. Like this video if you roared like a lion or clapped like at a storytelling fire. Lion Star, Fire Star. Subscribe to Lucky English for Beginners and hit the bell so we can explore more African adventures together. See you next time for more magical tales. Bye-bye, little story stars. Earth Star, high five, Star Star.
Hello, 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 super night sky explorers. Welcome to Lucky English for Beginners. I'm your host, and today we are gazing up at the most magical show in the sky, the moon and the night sky. We're going to whisper, imagine twinkling stars, make moon shapes, howl like wolves, and speak loud but soft and dreamy English about our beautiful silver moon and the sparkling night. The moon lights up the dark, changes shape every night, pulls the oceans, and makes us dream. It's like nature's nightlight. Are you ready to become moon watchers and star dreamers? Whisper, shout, yes, let's look up right now. Wonderful. Say every sentence after me. Do the actions, twinkle your fingers like stars, point to the moon, and tell me in the comments your favorite thing about the night sky at the end. Turn off the lights in your imagination. Look up. Let's go stargazing. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so we can explore more night magic together every week. Shh. Look up. The night sky is here. It's full of wonders. The moon is shining bright tonight. Wave hello. Hello, moon. The moon is not a star. It's our closest neighbor in space. Shout whisper, moon is special. The moon reflects sunlight. That's why it glows silver and white. Pretend you're touching the moon. Stretch your arms high. The moon changes shape every night. That's called phases. New moon, invisible, like it's hiding. Can you hide your face? Crescent moon, like a smile in the sky. Smile big like the moon. Full moon, big, round, super bright. Make a big circle with your arms. Say it dreamy. Full moon, you are so beautiful tonight. Wolves howl at the full moon. Ow! Howl with me softly. Some people say the moon looks like a face. Do you see a face? Eyes, nose, mouth. Pretend you're the man in the moon. Wink, wink. Stars twinkle in the night sky. Wiggle your fingers like twinkling stars. Stars are giant balls of fire far, far away, much farther than the moon. The brightest star is Sirius. Say, hello, Sirius. Constellations are star pictures. Find the Big Dipper. Make a spoon shape with your hands. Orion the hunter, 3 stars in a row for his belt. Point to your belt. Say it proud. I know the constellations. Shooting stars are not stars. They're meteors burning up. Make a wish quick. Close your eyes, make a wish, and say, starlight, star bright. Did you make a wish?
Tell me in comments what you wished for. The Milky Way is our galaxy. Looks like a river of stars. Can you see it on clear nights? Pretend you're swimming in the Milky Way. Swim, swim, swim. The night sky is dark so we can see the stars. Thank you, darkness. In cities there are too many lights. Hard to see stars. In villages or mountains, wow. Have you ever seen a really dark sky full of stars? The moon pulls the oceans. That's why we have tides. High tide, low tide. Pretend you're the ocean. Go up, high tide, and down, low tide. Some cultures have moon stories, like the rabbit on the moon in Asia. In India, the moon is like a god, Chandra. Say, Namaste, Chandra. In stories, the moon watches over us at night, like a gentle guardian. Bats fly at night under the moon, flap, flap like a bat. Owls say, hoo, 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 under the moonlight, hoo, hoo, hoo. Fireflies light up the night too, blink, blink like fireflies. Night is for dreaming. Close your eyes and dream. Which do you like more, full moon or starry sky? Quick game, make your best moon face, round and glowing. Say it's super dreamy. The night sky is full of magic. The moon is always there, even in daytime sometimes. Stars are always shining, we just can't see them when the sun is out. The night sky connects everyone, same moon for all of us. Imagine sleeping under the stars. How do you feel? Make your calmest, happiest night sky face right now. Say it with wonder. I love the moon and the night sky so much. The night sky is peaceful and quiet. Shh, listen to the stars. You are now a little moon and star expert. Who wants more night sky adventures? Raise your hand high. One more time, whisper shout with me. The moon and stars are amazing. You are the best English learners and night dreamers in the whole universe. High five the screen. Wow, wow, wow. You spoke so much dreamy English today. You howled, twinkled, wished on stars, and felt the magic of the night. Practice these fun sentences every night, and look up at the real moon or stars if it's clear. In the comments write, my favorite thing about the night sky is full moon or shooting stars. Why? Tonight I will look for the moon, stars, a constellation. Like this video if you twinkled your fingers or howled at the moon. Subscribe to Lucky English for Beginners, and hit the bell so we can gaze at more sky wonders together. See you next time under the starry night. Bye-bye, little moonbeams.
Hello, hello, hello. Super Moon Explorers. Moon, stars, stars. Welcome back to Lucky English for Beginners. I'm your host, and today we are going deep into the most magical thing about the moon, lunar phases. Full moon, half moon, half moon. We're going to shout and whisper. Imagine the moon dancing around Earth, make moon shapes with our hands, and speak clear, exciting English about why the moon changes shape every night. The moon doesn't really change, it's always round, but how much we see from Earth changes. Are you ready to become a lunar phase master? Yell, yes, show me the moon phases right now. Amazing. Say every sentence after me. Do the actions, draw the moon in the air, and tell me in the comments which phase you like best at the end. Let's orbit together. Pretend you're flying around the moon. Rocket, moon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so we can learn more moon magic every week. Wow! The moon goes through 8 main phases every month, about 29.5 days. Shout it. The moon has phases because of sunlight and shadows. The moon does not shine by itself. It reflects sunlight. Say, thank you, sun, for lighting the moon. Sun, arrow, moon. Earth is in the middle. Sun on one side, moon going around Earth. We only see the part of the moon that the sun is shining on. Pretend your head is Earth, your right hand is the sun, your left hand is the moon. Move moon around your head. Phase 1, new moon. The moon is between Earth and sun. We see the dark side. The moon looks invisible. Make a tiny circle with your fingers and hide it. O, arrow, gone. Say it softly. New moon. Hello, hidden moon. Phase 2, waxing crescent. A tiny silver smile appears on the right. Make a thin crescent with your thumb and finger.
smile like the moon. Smile, moon. Waxing means getting bigger every night. Say, waxing crescent is growing. Phase 3, first quarter. Half the moon is lit. Looks like a big D. Make half a circle with your hands, straight line down the middle. Half moon. Shout, first quarter, half moon power. Phase 4, waxing gibbous. More than half is lit, but not full yet. Make a big, almost full circle, just a little dark on the left. Full moon. Say it, waxing gibbous, getting fatter and fatter. Phase 5, full moon. The whole moon is bright. Earth is between sun and moon. Make a huge round circle with your arms. Big hug for the full moon. Howl like a wolf. Oh, woo, full moon is here. Wolf, moon. Phase 6, waning gibbous. Still more than half, but shrinking. Make almost full circle again. Now dark on the right side. Full moon. Say waning means getting smaller. Waning gibbous is shrinking. Phase 7, last quarter. Half moon again, but the left side is lit. Make another half circle, straight line on the left. Half moon. Say it, last quarter, goodbye bright side. Phase 8, waning crescent. Tiny silver smile on the left. Make a thin crescent on the left, fading away. Whisper, waning crescent, almost gone. See you next new moon. Remember the order. New, waxing crescent, first quarter, waxing gibbous, full, waning gibbous, last quarter, waning crescent, new again. Quick game, hold up fingers and count the phases. 1 new, 2 crescent, go, go, go. The moon rises later each night because it moves around Earth. Full moon rises at sunset, perfect for night play. New moon rises with the sun, that's why we can't see it. In some cultures, the full moon has special names: wolf moon, harvest moon, strawberry moon. Which moon name do you like best? Pretend you're naming a new full moon. What would you call it? The moon affects tides. High tide when moon pulls water. Wave. Say it, moon plus gravity equals ocean tides. Some people think the moon controls moods or sleep. Do you feel different on full moon nights? Make your best dreamy full moon face right now. Full moon. The moon phases are the same everywhere on Earth. Same moon for everyone. Say it proud. The moon phases are a beautiful dance between sun, earth, and moon. Quick challenge. Draw all 8 phases in the air super fast. Ready? Go. Which phase makes you happiest? Full moon glow or tiny crescent smile? Say it super loud. I love the lunar phases. Moon, stars, stars. You are now a real moon phase expert. One more time. Shout with me. The moon changes shape every night, and it's amazing. Full moon, half moon. You are the best English learners and moon lovers in the whole universe. High five the screen. Hand, cosmic star. Wow, wow, wow. You spoke so much exciting English today. You made moon shapes, howled, counted phases, and understood why the moon looks different every night. Practice these sentences every evening and look at the real moon tonight. Check what phase it is. In the comments write, my favorite lunar phase is, today or tonight the moon looks like, I learned that the moon. Like this video if you made the full moon circle or howled at the moon. Full moon, wolf. Subscribe to Lucky English for Beginners and hit the bell so we can explore more sky wonders together. See you next time under the moonlit sky. Bye-bye, little moon watchers. Moon, star, star.
Hello, 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 Super Pakistan explorers. Welcome to Lucky English for Beginners. I'm your host, and today we are jumping into the exciting, colorful world of Pakistan. We're going to shout, imagine flying over tall mountains, eat pretend spicy food, dance a little, and speak loud English about this amazing country, its mountains, animals, yummy food, history, and friendly people. Pakistan is full of big adventures, beautiful places, delicious tastes, and proud stories. It's like a treasure chest in South Asia. Are you ready to become a Pakistan expert? Yell, yes, Pakistan Zindabad right now. Fantastic. Say every sentence after me. Do the actions, pretend you're climbing K2 or eating biryani, and tell me in the comments your favorite thing about Pakistan at the end. Grab your imaginary shalwar kameez. Let's fly to Pakistan. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so we can explore more countries together every week. Wow, Pakistan is in South Asia, next to India, China, Afghanistan, and Iran. Point to where it is on an imaginary map. The capital is Islamabad, beautiful green hills, and the huge white Faisal Mosque. Pretend you're praying there, hands up. Shout it loud, Pakistan Zindabad.
Long live Pakistan. Pakistan has the world's second tallest mountain, K2. It's super high, 8,611 meters. Stretch your arms up like a mountain. The Himalayas and Karakoram Mountains are in the north, snowy and strong. Pretend you're climbing. Step, step, step. The national animal is the markhor, a wild goat with twisty spiral horns. Make horns on your head with your fingers. Say, markhor is strong and fast. Run in place like a markhor. The national bird is the chukar partridge, a cute brown bird that lives in hills. Flap your arms like wings. Flap, flap. National flower is jasmine, sweet white flowers. Smell the air. Jasmine. National tree is the deodar cedar, tall and green in the mountains. Reach high like a tree. Food in Pakistan is spicy and yummy. Pretend to eat biryani. Chomp, chomp. Naan bread is soft and hot. Tear imaginary naan and dip it. Say, I love Pakistani food, spicy and delicious. Famous dish, karahi, chicken or goat with tomatoes and spices. Stir your pot. Stir, stir. Sweet treats, jalebi, crunchy and syrupy. Pretend to bite one. Crunch, crunch. Pakistan makes most of the world's footballs. Kick an imaginary ball. Goal. Cricket is super popular. Hit a 6. Swing your bat. Traditional dress is shalwar kameez, comfy and colorful. Pretend to wear one. Twirl, twirl. Many people speak Urdu. Say, Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. Famous landmark Badshahi Mosque in Lahore, huge and red. Make a big dome with your arms. Minar-e-Pakistan in Lahore, tall tower for independence. Stand tall like the Minar. Mohenjo-Daro, ancient city from 4,000 years ago. Pretend you're digging ruins. Dig, dig. Rohtas Fort, big strong walls. March like a guard. Northern areas, Hunza, Skardu, Swat, green valleys and rivers. Swim in imaginary river. Splash, splash. Thar Desert in the south, hot sand and camels. Ride a camel. Hump, hump. Indus River dolphin, blind and rare. Pretend to swim like a dolphin. E. Snow leopards in the mountains, sneaky and beautiful. Prowl like a snow leopard. Rar. Faisal Mosque in Islamabad, modern and huge. Count the minarets, 4 big ones. Pakistan has many festivals. Eid with yummy sweets. Say Eid Mubarak and hug the air. People are friendly. They love guests. Pretend to welcome someone. Come in, welcome. Quick game. Make your best markhor pose. Horns and jump. Go, go, go. Which part of Pakistan would you visit? Mountains? Lahore? Karachi Beach? Say it super proud. Pakistan is beautiful and strong. Pakistan has amazing history. Indus Valley was one of the first cities ever. The flag is green with white stripe, crescent moon and star. Draw it in the air. The national anthem is strong and beautiful. Sing Pak Sar Zameen. Hum it. Pakistan is home to many languages, over 60. Say hello in Urdu. Hello. The Karakoram Highway, highest road in the world. Drive pretend car. Vroom vroom. Pakistani people love family, cricket, and food. What do you love? Imagine eating mangoes in summer. Pakistan has the best mangoes. Slurp, slurp. Make your happiest Pakistan face right now. Say it with power. I love learning about Pakistan. Pakistan connects mountains, deserts, rivers, and seas. Everyone is welcome. Come visit. Quick challenge. Make 3 things you learned about Pakistan. Which animal or food do you want to try? Say it super loud. Pakistan is amazing and fun. You are now a little Pakistan explorer. One more time, shout with me, Pakistan Zindabad. You are the best English learners and world friends in the whole world. High five the screen. Wow, wow, wow. You spoke so much exciting English today. You climbed mountains, ate biryani, howled like markhor, and loved Pakistan. Practice these fun sentences every day and tell your friends one fact about Pakistan. In the comments, write, my favorite thing about Pakistan is, I want to visit K2, Lahore, Karachi. Assalamu alaikum from me. Like this video if you made markhor horns or shouted Pakistan Zindabad. Subscribe to Lucky English for Beginners and hit the bell so we can explore more countries together. See you on our next adventure. Bye-bye, little Pakistan stars.
Hello, 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 Super Pakistan adventurers. Welcome to Lucky English for Beginners. I'm your host, and today we are turning up the energy for Pakistan. We're going to shout, jump, pretend we're eating biryani, climb imaginary mountains, dance Bhangra style, and speak loud, fun English about this incredible country. Pakistan is mountains, plus spicy food, plus cricket, plus friendly people, plus ancient history, equals total adventure. Are you ready to become a Pakistan explorer and speak English like a pro? Yell yes, Pakistan Zindabad, right now, louder. Yeah! Say every sentence after me. Do the actions, make the sounds, pretend you're there, and tell me in the comments your favorite thing about Pakistan at the end. Grab your imaginary cricket bat or plate of nahari. Let's go full energy mode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so we can explore more countries with big fun every week. Wow! Where is Pakistan? Shout the neighbors. India, China, Afghanistan, Iran. Point on your imaginary map. Capital city, what is it? Shout Islamabad. Now say Assalamu alaikum from Islamabad. Quick jump. Jump if you love green hills around Islamabad. Jump, jump, jump. Biggest mountain in Pakistan. K2. How tall? Stretch high and shout 8,611 meters. Pretend you're climbing K2. Take big steps and breathe heavy. Huff, huff. Almost there. Who can make the tallest mountain pose? Arms up like K2. Hold it. 3, 2, 1. National animal. What is it? Shout markhor. Make twisty horns on your head. Markhor lives in high mountains. Jump like a markhor. Boing, boing, boing. Say it fast. Markhor has spiral horns and is super strong. National bird. Shout, chukar partridge. Flap your wings. Flap, flap, flap. Pretend you're a chukar running in the hills. Run in place fast. National flower. Smell the air and shout, jasmine. Make a flower shape with your hands. Open, open, open. Food time. What's the most famous dish? Shout, biryani. Pretend to eat. Big bite. Stir imaginary karahi. Stir, stir, stir. Spicy, spicy, yummy. Eat naan. Tear it and say, hot, hot naan. Sweet tooth? Shout, jalebi. Pretend to bite crunchy jalebi. Crunch, crunch. Sport time. What's number 1? Shout, cricket. Swing your bat. 6, 6, 6. Kick a football. Goal. Pakistan makes the best footballs. Traditional clothes. Shout, shalwar kameez. Twirl like you're wearing colorful ones. Say hello in Urdu. Assalamu alaikum. Wave big. Famous mosque in Lahore. Shout, Badshahi Mosque. Make a huge dome with your arms. Minar-e-Pakistan. Stand super tall like the tower. Independence Tower. Ancient city. Shout, Mohenjo-Daro. Pretend to dig. Dig, dig, dig. Rohtas Fort. March like a soldier guarding it. March, march. Northern magic. Hunza. Pretend to pick apricots. Yum, yum. Karachi Beach. Splash, splash like waves. Animal fun. Indus River dolphin. Swim like a dolphin. Ee. Snow leopard in mountains. Prow sneakily. Rawr. Eid celebration. Shout, Eid Mubarak. Hug the air like family hug. Quick game. Make your best markhor jump. Jump highest you can. Go. Which food do you want to eat right now? Shout it loud. Which place do you want to visit? K2, Lahore, Karachi? Shout your answer. Say it super proud and loud. Pakistan is beautiful, strong, and full of adventure. Flag colors, green and white. Draw crescent moon and star in the air. National anthem, hum it strong. Pak Sar Zameen. How many languages in Pakistan? Shout, more than 60. Karakoram Highway. Pretend to drive. Vroom vroom on the highest road. Mango season. Slurp the best mangoes. Slurp slurp. Make your happiest Pakistan face right now. Say it with big energy. I love Pakistan. Quick challenge. Say 3 things you learned. Shout them fast. Who wants to visit Pakistan one day? Raise your hand high. Say it super loud. Pakistan Zindabad forever. You are now a super Pakistan explorer and English speaker. Dream about K2 or biryani tonight. One more time. Shout with me. Pakistan is the best. You are the best English learners and Pakistan fans in the whole world. High five the screen. Tell me now in comments. My favorite thing about Pakistan is I want to eat biryani, jalebi. I want to visit mountains, Lahore. Assalamu alaikum, and see you next adventure. Bye bye, little Pakistan stars. Wow, wow, wow. You spoke so much loud, fun English today. You jumped like Markhor, ate imaginary biryani, swung cricket bats, and shouted Zindabad.
Practice these sentences and show your family one Pakistan fact. Like this video if you made Mark Horhorns, shouted biryani, or jumped super high. Subscribe to Lucky English for Beginners and hit the bell for more exciting countries. Bye-bye, Super Explorers. See you soon.
Introduction and warm-up. Hello, and welcome back to our practice space. Today, we will focus on speaking clearly and confidently. Remember, you do not need to rush. Just listen to my voice and repeat after me. We are building your English skills step by step. Take a deep breath and relax your shoulders. Clear your mind and focus on the sounds. Speaking English should feel natural and easy. Don't worry about making mistakes today. Mistakes are just part of the learning process. The morning routine. My alarm clock rings early in the morning. I usually wake up around 6:30 a.m. I turn off the alarm and stretch my body. The house is very quiet at this time. I get out of bed and open the curtains. I like to see the sunlight come into the room. I go to the bathroom to wash my face. Cold water helps me wake up quickly. I look in the mirror and smile at myself. Then I go to the kitchen to drink water. Drinking water first thing is healthy for you. I put water in the kettle to make tea or coffee. While the water boils, I prepare my breakfast. I usually eat oatmeal or toast with jam. I sit at the table and eat slowly. I check the weather on my phone. It looks like it will be a sunny day today. After breakfast, I wash my dishes immediately. I brush my teeth and get dressed for the day. I pack my bag and check that I have my keys. Commute, work, and study. I leave my house at 8 a.m. The air outside feels fresh and cool. I walk to the bus stop near my home. Sometimes I drive my car to work. The traffic is usually busy in the morning. I listen to a podcast while I travel. I arrive at my office or school on time. I say good morning to my colleagues. I sit at my desk and turn on my computer. First, I check my important emails. I write a list of things to do today. Being organized helps me feel less stressed. I focus on my work for 2 hours. If I have a question, I ask for help. Asking questions is a good way to learn. I have a meeting with my team at 10 a.m. We talk about our projects and goals. I take notes in my notebook so I don't forget. The morning passes very quickly when I am busy. I try to stay focused on one task at a time. Afternoon and lunch. At 1 p.m., it is finally time for lunch. I stop working and close my laptop. I usually bring a homemade lunch with me. Sometimes I go to a restaurant with friends. I like to eat a salad or a sandwich. Lunch is a time to relax and recharge. I do not talk about work during lunch. After eating, I go for a short walk outside. The fresh air gives me new energy. I return to my desk feeling refreshed. The afternoon is often quieter than the morning. I finish my reports and reply to messages. I drink a cup of green tea in the afternoon. I start to clean my desk around 4:30 p.m. I like to leave my workspace tidy for tomorrow. Evening and relaxation. I finish work at 5 p.m. and go home. The commute home is a time to unwind. When I get home, I change into comfortable clothes. I sit on the sofa for a few minutes. I talk to my family about their day. We decide what to cook for dinner. I enjoy cooking because it is creative. We chop vegetables and prepare the meal together. The kitchen smells delicious while we cook. We eat dinner together at the table. No phones are allowed at the dinner table. After dinner, I help wash the dishes. Then I have some free time for myself. I like to read a book or watch a movie. Sometimes I call a friend to say hello. I check my phone one last time. I prepare my clothes for the next morning. I lock the doors and turn off the lights. The house becomes quiet and peaceful again. I feel tired but happy about the day. Nighttime routine. I go to the bathroom to brush my teeth. I wash my face with warm water. I put on my pajamas and go to my bedroom. I turn on a small lamp by my bed. I write in my journal for 5 minutes. I write 3 things I am thankful for. This helps me sleep with positive thoughts. I turn off the lamp and close my eyes. The bed feels soft and warm. I take a deep breath and drift to sleep. Conclusion and encouragement. You did a wonderful job listening today. Practicing every day makes a big difference. Be proud of the effort you made. I look forward to speaking with you again soon. Keep listening, keep shadowing, and keep learning.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. So today we're going to kick things off by tackling a question that I think a lot of people have probably typed into a search bar, maybe even secretly.
Oh, definitely. That phrase, how to become a hacker. It has this allure, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
It's this idea of forbidden knowledge, of mastering systems in a way that, frankly, most of us just don't understand.
A kind of digital power.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we're here today because our source material demands, an immediate and really crucial pivot from that fantasy. We are not talking about digital mischief.
No. Or criminal activity.
We are focusing squarely on the responsible, the ethical, and the legal version of that same curiosity. We are talking about the path to becoming an ethical hacker.
And that word ethical, it's absolutely crucial, isn't it? It's like a tripwire. Our sources draw a razor-sharp line right there. The simple act of hacking, just on its own, is inherently illegal. You can't just go out and teach people how to break the law. So our mission in this deep dive is to figure out how you can take that interest, that curiosity in how systems work and break, and turn it into a valuable, legitimate,
And as we'll see, an extremely lucrative career.
a very lucrative career, specifically by leveraging a really interesting route, volunteering with law enforcement.
Okay, so let's get crystal clear on the definition right up front.
Yeah.
If the technical skills are, more or less the same, what is the single biggest thing that separates a criminal from an ethical hacker?
It's two things, permission and intent. An ethical hacker uses that same offensive knowledge, those same skills, but strictly within the law.
With permission.
With explicit permission. Their goal isn't to cause chaos or for personal gain. It's the complete opposite. They're there to secure systems, to catch the actual criminals, to protect victims, maybe even find missing people.
So you're always working alongside a team.
Always. You're working directly with the police or a cyber cell or some other government organization. And crucially, they are the ones directing your efforts. You don't go off on your own.
So if I'm hearing you right, if someone is looking for this knowledge just for fun, for personal amusement, to show off some kind of digital magic to their friends.
That's the red line.
That is the immediate definition of a criminal act.
Absolutely. The sources couldn't be more clear on this. If your motivation is fun, enjoyment, or showing magic, you've already crossed the line. You've become a liability, not an asset. And this is a huge problem because the very knowledge that gives you this power is, it's intrinsically linked to the knowledge that ensures you get caught.
That sets the stage perfectly, because the moment we talk about power, we have to talk about accountability. Let's move into what the sources are calling the crucial mandate.
Yeah.
When I was reading through the notes, there was this immediate heavy emphasis on maturity.
Right.
It's not just about being smart or a tech genius.
No, not at all.
You have to understand that this incredible digital power you're gaining has to be balanced with an overwhelming sense of responsibility.
It's the non-negotiable price of entry into this world.
Mm-hmm.
The mentors in our source material, they deliver this point almost like a fatherly warning.
Right.
They say, look, misusing these skills is a serious crime. The consequences aren't a maybe, they are inescapable. You have to approach this with the goal of preventing offenses against yourself or your company or the public, never ever committing them against others.
And this brings us to what I thought was the most fascinating idea in the whole thing, this catch me if you can warning.
Yes.
It's this explicit challenge from the instructor to the student. The instructor basically says, if I teach you how to break the law, I know exactly how to find you. How can they be so confident? Doesn't technology always favor the attacker?
That's a brilliant question, and it gets right to the heart of the difference between the exploit layer and the, let's call it the infrastructure layer.
Okay, break that down for us.
Yeah, a novice attacker, a criminal, they're focused on the specific piece of code, the social engineering trick, the timing. They think that using a tool, say a VPN, a virtual private network, to hide their IP address makes them a ghost.
Or finding one of those 4 ways to steal an OTP we read about.
Exactly. And for anyone who doesn't know, an OTP is a one-time password, that little 6-digit code you get on your phone to prove it's you.
Right.
So the attacker masters the trick to steal that code. But the defender, the ethical hacker who's working with the police, they're not focused on the trick. They're focused on the infrastructure the trick runs on.
So where the attacker sees a secret tunnel with their VPN, the defender sees a set of connection logs.
Precisely. The teacher, the expert, they know that while you might hide your IP address for a moment, that VPN service, it requires a payment, it uses a specific server, it relies on data from your local telecom company, all of which is information that law enforcement, the proper legal channel, can eventually request.
Ah, so the trail is always there.
The trail is always there. The expert says it outright. If I tell you how to steal an OTP, you have to understand, I know exactly how to catch the person who does it. The confidence comes from understanding the whole picture, the forensic trail, the legal trail, and this massive data infrastructure that logs pretty much every digital move we make.
It's the ultimate technical check and balance then. The knowledge to use the weapon is fundamentally tied to the knowledge of how to defend against it.
It has to be. The sources use this really great cultural analogy to make the point. The story of the cat and the mouse, the mouseabilly.
Okay.
The expert is the cat. They're sharing the knowledge of the mouse, the vulnerability, but only up to a point. They always hold back the key knowledge that ensures the cat can still win. They're teaching you the tricks so you can stop them from happening to you, not so you can use them on someone else.
Yeah, that is a profound way to look at it. It completely shifts the motivation for learning from aggression to defense. And it means you need a high level of, well, intellectual maturity to handle that.
You do. Because if you misuse it, you're not just attacking a random person, you're attacking someone who helped build the defense and who knows your entire playbook better than you.
And that's the final word on the mandate. This isn't the gray area.
Not at all. It's black and white. You cross that line, and the system, guided by the very people who understand the technology at its core, will bring you down. This path is for protectors and builders, period.
With that distinction so clearly established, let's turn to the reward. Because for those who do have that maturity, the career path that opens up is, well, it's pretty extraordinary.
It really is.
So the ethical line is drawn, the consequences are clear, the responsibility is immense. How does someone actually start this journey? How do you become one of these highly skilled and highly paid experts?
The sources are very realistic about this. They confirm that while, mentorship and guidance are vital, at the end of the day, expertise is self-driven.
Right. No one can just pour it into your brain.
Exactly. You have to put in the time, the focus, the hours of practice. The experts can only give you the map and point you in the right direction. The journey is yours.
And what are the first vehicles on that journey? Where do you start learning?
The good news is this isn't some secret hidden knowledge. Foundational resources are everywhere. We're talking about a huge number of high-quality online courses and, just as important, really good books.
Old-fashioned books.
Absolutely. Books that go deep into networking, digital forensics, how operating systems really work. That's the theory you need. And for those who want a more direct connection, the sources even mention a specific channel reaching out via the CyberDoobie handle on Instagram to connect directly with people active in the field.
That's a great resource.
Yeah.
But the thing that really stood out as a career accelerator was the volunteer route. This isn't just about taking a class. This is about getting into the trenches right away.
It is, without a doubt, the fastest way to leapfrog what would normally take years of corporate experience. The expert in our sources is actively building a large volunteer team specifically to help police forces and cyber cells all over the country.
And the whole model is built, at least at first, on non-monetary value.
Exactly.
So you have to walk us through that. Why would a highly skilled person work for free?
Because the currency they're earning is reputation, certification, and high-level network. And in this field, that's worth far more than an entry-level salary. The sources are upfront that, direct payment from the police for a volunteer role can be limited. They just don't have budgets for that specific thing yet.
But the intangible rewards are huge.
Massive. First, you get official recognition, appreciation, police awards. Imagine putting on your resume an official commendation from a government law enforcement body for helping solve a complex series of financial fraud cases.
That carries a lot of weight.
An incredible amount. Second, and this is maybe even more important, is the networking. You get the chance to interact directly, to speak with very high-ranking officers. We're talking about IGs, ADGs, SSPs.
Okay, let's pause on those acronyms, because for a lot of our listeners, that might just sound like alphabet soup. What's the equivalent of an IG or an ADG in, say, a corporate setting?
Think of them as the C-suite of law enforcement, the executive directors, the regional commissioner, the command leadership. These are the people making policy and strategic decisions at the highest level.
So when you, as a young volunteer, successfully break down a case and present your analysis to an ADG,
and that analysis directly leads to an arrest, you have instantly established credibility at the executive level. It's a game changer.
and how does that network help you later on? It can't just be for bragging rights.
No, it provides profound credibility and, frankly, leverage. If you go into high-level consulting or start your own security firm, being able to say, I've routinely advised and presented forensic evidence to the Inspector General's office, that just changes the whole conversation with the potential client. It builds instant trust. And yes, it can help in future career moves or even just navigating any unforeseen legal issues if they come up. That reputation is priceless.
It makes the whole unpaid period sound less like charity and more like a high-stakes internship with an executive pass.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Okay, so let's get to the bottom line, the financial payoff. This experience is career gold, but how quickly does that gold turn into actual cash?
This is where the acceleration is just incredible. People who have trained in this system, who have gained that hands-on verifiable forensic experience, they are now being recruited globally. The sources cite specific examples, people now working in top tech roles in Dubai, in Denmark. The demand for proven, practical cybersecurity skill is just off the charts everywhere.
And what about domestically? Who are the big companies hiring these people?
The biggest names in global consulting and risk management. We're talking specifically about the big four: EY, Deloitte, KPMG, and PwC.
The accounting giants.
Right. But they have these massive forensic technology and cyber risk divisions. They need people who can handle a financial fraud investigation from the second the data is seized all the way until the evidence is presented in court.
And why is a certificate from the police more valuable to them than, say, a standard industry certification?
Because of the context. A standard certification proves you know the theory, proves you're familiar with the tools. But a certificate from a police department that says you personally investigated 10 real financial fraud cases, that you analyzed complex call detail records, that you helped recover stolen money, that proves competency under pressure.
It's a proof of concept.
It's absolute proof of concept in the highest stakes environment you can imagine. These firms need forensic analysts who understand the legal chain of custody for data. The police certificate is that proof.
And this kind of tangible experience, it commands a pretty significant salary.
A very significant one. The sources suggest that with this level of certified real-world experience, you can easily command an annual salary of 15 to 20 lakh rupees.
And then just to put that into a global context for our listeners.
It's a highly competitive salary. It rivals or even exceeds what you might see in many Western tech hubs, especially when you factor in the career trajectory that this kind of experience gives you. It just shows that this volunteer path is a high-speed, very lucrative on-ramp to the industry.
So if a listener is hearing this and they're ready to commit, how do they actually do it? How do they get connected to their local cyber cell?
The expert has actually streamlined this whole process. Because they have these active connections with police forces and cyber cells all over, they mentioned Bisnor, Bulandshahr, Kerala, Maharashtra as examples, the interested volunteer just sends in their details.
To the expert directly.
Yes. The expert then acts as the go-between, the liaison. They connect you directly with your local SSP, the Senior Superintendent of Police, or the head of the cyber cell. It's a fast track that gets you past all the usual red tape and gets you working on real cases almost immediately.
That's incredible. Okay, so that transition from career planning to actually doing the work is so important. Let's get into the weeds of the day-to-day. What are these volunteers actually doing? What are the practical skills that are so desperately needed?
The work really falls into a few distinct categories, and they all highlight the specific technical gaps that the police are trying to fill. And these aren't, some fantasy hacking scenarios from a movie.
No, this is real-world stuff.
These are immediate, high-volume public service needs.
Let's start with the first case type you mentioned.
Yeah.
The post-incident phone hygiene check. This sounds like it deals with the emotional fallout of a crime.
It's hugely important and incredibly common. Picture the scenario. A victim, often a woman, calls the police. She says she clicked on a weird link, but she swears she didn't enter an OTP or any password. But her bank account was still drained. The money's gone.
And her first thought is panic.
Absolute panic. Is the criminal still in my phone? Is my account going to be drained again? Is my phone basically a zombie device now spying on me?
She needs that reassurance that the immediate threat is over, that her device is clean.
Exactly. And the police officer who is trained in investigation and law might not have the specific technical skills to provide that on-the-spot digital forensic check. So the volunteer steps in.
So what do they do?
They run a kind of technical checkup. They have a specific checklist they go through, or they use specialized scanning tools to look for any persistent threats.
Can you give us a sense of what's on that checklist without getting too technical? What are they looking for?
Sure. They're looking for active processes that shouldn't be running in the background. They're checking the permissions on all the apps to see if anything is granted itself, say, remote access. They might analyze network traffic for connections to known malicious servers.
So looking for Trojans and things like that?
Right. Remote access Trojans, or RATs, that can just sit there silently. The volunteer fills that technical vacuum. They can say to the victim, with confidence, look, recovering the money is a separate legal process, but your device is now secure. That restores an enormous amount of confidence and peace of mind.
That's a huge public service.
Yeah.
It's bridging that gap between law enforcement and basic digital security. Okay, what about case type 2? Tracing harassers and digital morphs. This sounds like a crime that requires speed above all else.
It does. This is where those digital tracing skills become so critical. You have a victim who's being harassed. Maybe their photos have been taken and morphed into, compromising images and then posted anonymously on Instagram or Telegram.
A nightmare scenario.
A total nightmare. And the police need to find out who posted it fast before it spreads.
And the sources say a volunteer can often do this in just a couple of days. What's the digital trail they're following?
They're looking for all the tiny mistakes the perpetrator makes. Many of them are amateurs. They forget to strip the EXIF data from an image, which can reveal the GPS location of where the photo was taken.
Wow.
Or they might use a disposable email to create the account, but the registration logs for that email still point back to a specific IP address at a specific time. The volunteer is an expert at finding these tiny, careless digital footprints that link the anonymous account back to a real person.
And once the volunteer has that evidence, why is the resolution so fast?
Because, according to the sources, in 99% of these cases, the person behind it is an amateur. Often it's a school or college student, someone acting out of spite, or just plain boredom. So once the police have that concrete evidence from the volunteer, all it usually takes is one phone call. A call to the perpetrator, or sometimes their parents. The immediate threat of legal action is almost always enough to get the content taken down immediately. The crisis is resolved quickly, often without a long, drawn-out court case.
That speed really shows the power of having that technical skill on hand. Okay, let's get to the most complex area. Case type 3. Large-scale data analysis.
This is where the ethical hacker really becomes more of a forensic data analyst. We're talking about high-level organized crime now, often financial fraud rings that generate just massive, massive volumes of data.
Thousands of call records, IP logs.
Exactly. Financial transactions. It's a mountain of raw data that no single human investigator could ever sift through manually. It's just impossible.
And this is where those specialized techniques come in, like IPDR and CDR analysis. We should probably define those.
We definitely should. So CDR stands for Call Detail Record. It's a log that every telecom company keeps. It records every call made from a phone, the number it called, the time of the call, how long it lasted, and the cell towers it connected.
So it's the metadata of the call, not the conversation itself.
Precisely. It's the who, when, where, and for how long. IPDR, or IP Detail Record, is the exact same idea but for internet usage. It logs the IP addresses you used, connection times, how much data was transferred, and so on.
So the volunteers aren't reading anyone's messages, they're mapping connections and patterns. What kind of patterns are they looking for in these huge data sets?
They're looking for the common thread that ties hundreds of different victims together. For example, they might find that in 400 separate fraud complaints from all over the country, every single victim received a call or a message from one of 5 specific phone numbers right before the crime happened.
So you've just linked 400 separate cases into one single investigation.
Instantly. You've identified the criminal infrastructure. They also do frequency analysis. How often was a number used? Were the calls all made at night? This kind of advanced data extraction basically gives the police a laser-targeted roadmap straight to the criminals.
So the volunteer takes this overwhelming haystack of data and just hands the police a neatly labeled needle.
That is the perfect analogy. That's exactly the goal of this synergy.
We've established that the police are smart and motivated, and the volunteers have these amazing technical skills. And yet, there's still this widespread public perception that the police just aren't acting fast enough on cyber complaints. What did the sources say is the real root cause of this perception?
It comes down to a systemic capacity issue. It is not a skill issue. The sources are clear. The police are very smart. They're learning constantly. The problem, the real bottleneck, is the unbelievable volume of cases flooding the system every single day.
And to really understand that workload, we have to talk about a critical legal distinction that affects everything. The difference between a complaint and an FIR.
This is fundamental. A complaint is simply the act of reporting something. Anyone can file one. You can go online to cybercrime.gov.in and file a complaint right now. When you do that, an SMS gets sent to the local investigating officer, the IO.
So it's the start of the paper trail.
It's the start of the documentation. But an FIR, that's a whole different level.
What is an FIR? A First Information Report.
Filing an FIR basically turns that complaint into a legally binding contract for the police. Once an FIR is filed, the police are legally mandated to conduct a full investigation, take the case all the way to court, and see it to a conclusion. It creates a formal judicial process with strict accountability.
That sounds like a A massive burden for one officer.
It is an immense burden. And the reality on the ground is that these IOs are just completely overwhelmed. The sources mention officers dealing with anywhere from 200 to, in some cases, 5,000 pending cases at one time.
5,000. Wait, how can one person possibly manage 5,000 cases and give each one the legal rigor and FIR demands?
The short answer is they can't. And that leads to this practical, on-the-ground decision-making. Because filing that FIR locks them into this long, resource-heavy process. An officer might hesitate to convert a simple complaint into an FIR unless they feel confident they can actually solve it and see it through.
So the hesitation isn't a lack of will, it's a capacity calculation, a form of triage.
It's pure triage. It's not that they don't want to help. It's that the system imposes this overwhelming burden of responsibility.
So the core challenge is just brutally simple. How can one person solve thousands of cases? And this is where the technology, the volunteer, becomes the ultimate force multiplier.
Absolutely. Because the volunteer's role suddenly shifts. They're not just solving one case anymore. They have the potential to solve hundreds at once. When they do that large-scale data analysis we talked about, they're finding the patterns that connect all these seemingly separate cases.
So the technology finds the pattern, and then the police use their more traditional skills to make the arrest.
It's a perfect synergy. The tech analysis crunches the huge data set and finds that one shared phone number or that common IP address that links 400 different complaints. It does the breakthrough work a human simply couldn't do.
And once the target is identified.
Once the target is pinpointed, the police are experts at what comes next. They use their human intelligence, they do physical surveillance, what they call rekai, they gather witnesses, and they apprehend the target. The tech provides the breakthrough, and traditional policing closes the case.
The efficiency gain must be astronomical. This all seems to lead to a pretty pointed critique in the sources, framing this not just as a policing issue, but as a larger governmental challenge.
It does. The sources basically ask, what is the logic of the current system? How can we expect one investigator to manage 5,000 cases without a massive systemic upgrade in technological? The fact that the system relies so heavily on skilled, often unpaid volunteers just highlights this huge need.
It's not just about hiring more officers.
No. It's about equipping every single officer with the tools and the expertise to process data at scale. If we don't, the sources warn, the judicial system itself is at risk of just collapsing under the sheer weight of digital crime.
That is a staggering thought. The skills we're discussing aren't just for protecting a company's bottom line. They're literally essential for keeping our justice system functional in the digital age.
It's that critical.
So, this has been an incredible deep dive into the very complex, very high-stakes world of the ethical hacker. We started with that absolute mandate of responsibility. The idea that the knowledge to commit a digital crime is, by its very nature, linked to the knowledge of how you'll be caught. If you cross that line, the system finds you.
And it's a system guided by the very people who know the playbook. Then we saw this undeniable opportunity. The path to becoming a highly paid expert isn't some get-rich-quick scheme. It's through dedicated service.
Right. Volunteering with law enforcement to get that verifiable hands-on experience that top global firms like the Big Four value so immensely.
Which leads to incredible career acceleration and, as we discussed, salaries of 15 to 20 lakh rupees and even higher.
And we wrapped up on that huge systemic challenge. The sources made it so clear that the biggest problem facing police isn't a lack of skill, it's the crushing overload of cases. This is a system that is desperate for people with technical skills.
So we want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to chew on. If you're out there learning these skills, if you're mastering data analysis and pattern recognition, you are acquiring one of the most powerful tools in the modern world. The ability to turn seas of data into actionable intelligence.
The problem facing law enforcement is overload. The question for you, the learner, is how can you apply your expertise not just to solve one problem at a time, but to scale the solution? How can you prevent similar systems, whether they're injustice or finance or healthcare, from collapsing under that same data overload?
What organizational challenge in your own field could be completely transformed if you applied the same mindset at cyber volunteers to link 400 random criminal complaints into one solvable pattern? Don't just think about solving problems, think about scaling solutions. Welcome to your deep dive. We've been given a source today that is just incredibly rich, both historically and, I think, morally.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a transcription from a recent sermon, a bayan, by by Maulana Sheikh Idris Sahib. And what's so fascinating is that it's not just a history lesson.
No, not at all.
It uses these really powerful religious stories to build sort of a framework for understanding big ideas, governance, justice, and how a person finds strength when the odds are just completely stacked against them.
That's the perfect way to put it. What the Maulana has done here is he's taken these really diverse examples. I mean, we're talking kings on their thrones, scholars in chains, and he's synthesized them into this one unified lesson.
Right.
And our mission really is to take that synthesis and pull out the universal principles. This is your shortcut to understanding the nature of power, specifically how this deep conviction, what the source calls akida.
Your core belief.
Exactly, your core belief. How that acts as the ultimate spiritual defense against tyranny, against what he calls the Zalim Badshah.
The genius of the source, for me, is how it connects the world you can see, the armies, the palaces, the political games, with this invisible eternal world. It's constantly contrasting the fleeting power we can, see and touch with the eternal power of the divine, which is often hidden.
And to make those connections really stick, we are going to get into the details on some very specific, very high-stakes historical moments.
Okay.
We'll look at not just the events themselves, but the profound theological meaning behind them, from world-shaping battles to these intensely personal struggles for truth.
Yeah.
And the whole point of this discussion is to reinforce why, critical thinking, moral courage, and just an unwavering belief in your core principles are. Well, they're essential tools for navigating life's biggest tests.
Okay, let's unpack this. And I think we should start where the sermon starts, with the ultimate paradox of worldly. We begin with a king in his magnificent palace who, despite having everything, ends up being fundamentally weak. So the source opens with this really vivid, almost over-the-top image of earthly power. It sets the scene by describing the king, the Badshah, in his spectacular palace, his mahal.
Right.
And this isn't just a house, it's described as fully adorned, built in this unique style with these luxurious, glorious furnishings. The Shandar Farash.
It's visual maximalism. It's the architecture of control. Every single element, the gold, the marble, probably imported silks, it's all a very conscious attempt to project unassailable strength.
To project permanence.
Permanence, exactly. It's designed to do a few things. Impress visitors, intimidate rivals, and probably most importantly, to reassure the king himself that he has conquered the world's limitations.
So it's a message to himself as much as anyone else.
It's meant to signal total independence from everything, including, and maybe especially, any kind of spiritual authority. The immense cost of building and maintaining it is meant to underscore the king's complete self-sufficiency. He needs nothing and no one.
And yet this is immediately framed as a huge contradiction because despite all this extravagance, this fortress of security that is the Mahal, the sermon says the king eventually feels powerless, weak. The source uses the word BC. So how does a person who seemingly has everything, who controls everything, get to that state of profound weakness?
Well, the sermon is making a point that is both psychological and theological at the same time.
Yeah.
Psychologically, that external display is a kind of compensation.
You mean he's hiding something?
In a way, yes. The palace can keep out physical invaders, sure, but it can't stop him from getting older. It can't stop him from fearing death or from facing the moral consequences of his actions.
Right.
Or just that existential dread that must come with being so isolated at the top. So that BC, that deep sense of need, it starts to creep in when the conditional nature of his power becomes impossible to ignore.
So when the threats are internal or spiritual, not just, another army at the gates.
Exactly. When he's faced with a real crisis, a mortal illness, a terrifying dream, or even just the slow dawning realization that his people fear him, but none of them actually love him, that's when he realizes that all his worldly achievements can't give him ultimate security.
And that's when the source says he has to seek refuge or help from God, from Allah?
Yes, and that mandatory turning point, that moment of desperation, it exposes the fundamental lie that the whole palace was built to represent.
The spiritual emptiness just completely overrides the material fullness.
It does.
The king, who spent a fortune building this perfect environment to exclude all need, he ends up being the neediest person in the entire kingdom.
And that leads directly to a critique of his entire style of leadership. The source suggests that a truly strong king, a leader who actually provides justice and stability, isn't found hiding behind the walls of that palace.
No.
His true place should be what the narrative calls the field. The Madnan Iamal, the field of action.
Out among the people.
Out among the people, where he's humble, accessible, and actively searching for God's guidance, not just relying on the false and very costly security of his throne room.
This just flips the whole concept of royal strength on its head. The most powerful king is the one who understands his own fundamental need for the divine, the one who acknowledges his own limits. It's a total spiritual inversion of authority. Hashtag tag 1.2, the power of the oppressed Muslim.
And this inversion is made, well, terrifyingly real for any ruler when we consider the power that stands in direct opposition to the king.
Okay.
The immense, almost frightening spiritual power wielded by the one who was oppressed, the Muslim.
This is a concept that goes way beyond just, human pity. It enters the realm of cosmic justice. What is it that makes the dua, the prayer of the Muslim, so incredibly potent?
The Prophet, SIW, is cited as establishing the core principle here. God places absolutely no veil, no hijab, between himself and the prayer of the oppressed person.
No veil.
None. Now, the hijab usually symbolizes all the layers of creation, the distance, or maybe the need for a prayer to be refined by your intention before it can reach the divine throne.
Yeah.
For the Muslim, that entire pathway is cleared. It's an express lane.
So, wait. While the king's wealth and opulence might actually create a spiritual hijab for him, a distraction that slows down his own prayer,
Right.
the physical suffering and the total helplessness of the Muslim just strips all of those barriers away. Their prayer gets to God instantly, directly.
It's an unimpeded channel to the ultimate source of all power, which makes it an unstoppable force against any human authority. This is the profound theological check on all tyranny, on all zulm.
So if a king, a Zalim Badshah, commits an injustice, he's not just hurting a person.
No, he's inviting an immediate and potentially devastating response from the divine, and it's channeled right through the voice of the person he just oppressed.
Wow.
His fortress, his gold, his armies, none of it can intercept that prayer. None of it can stop it.
That makes the Muslim, well, arguably the single most powerful person in that entire spiritual economy.
Yes.
Their helplessness, paradoxically, is what grants them supreme power.
It creates this moral calculus where the cost of committing an injustice is always going to be infinitely higher than whatever temporary gain you might get from it.
Right.
And the source is very clear on this. It connects this huge high-stakes political tragedy to mundane, everyday injustice. It explicitly mentions people who oppress the poor, the Garib Kabar Gor, or the bad elements, the bad mash in small villages, the Gawan. The principle is universal.
It doesn't matter how big or small the injustice is.
It doesn't matter. God does not help the oppressor. It's a terrifying warning, really. Whether you're a king commanding legions or just some local strongman persecuting your neighbor, you are facing the exact same cosmic, instantaneous judgment. And it's all being channeled through that dua.
This idea of spiritual resilience is what we need to focus on next, because it sets the stage perfectly for what is maybe the most famous test of faith against state power, the trial of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal.
So now we're shifting from the general theory of the weak king to a very specific, very real historical crisis. We turn to Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal.
Okay.
And when we talk about him, we need to be clear. We are not talking about some fringe scholar. This man was a foundational figure in Islam, a hafiz, a muhaddith, the anchor of an entire school of jurisprudence. His reputation for piety and for scholarship was just immense.
And his big conflict wasn't with, say, foreign invaders. It was an internal civil war over religious doctrine, and it was being enforced by the state.
That's right.
This all happened under the Abbasid Caliphate, starting mainly with Caliph al-Mamun, who is basically the Zalim Badshah.
That context is crucial. The issue at the heart of it all was this theological controversy known as the Khalqul Quran.
The creation of the Quran.
Yes. Now, on the surface, that sounds deeply esoteric, but the ramifications were intensely political.
Okay, let's spend a minute on that, because the political significance can seem a bit abstract to a modern listener. Why did the Caliph care so much about whether the Quran was created or uncreated?
It was a direct power grab. Simple as that. The Caliph and his court scholars, the rationalist Mutazilites, they argued that the Quran was makhluk, or created.
Okay, and what does that imply?
Well, if the Quran was created, it means it exists within time, it's temporal, and therefore it requires human interpretation and human reasoning to be understood.
Ah.
And crucially, that puts the Caliph, as the ruler and the main sponsor of this rationalist scholarship, in a position of ultimate authority to interpret and possibly even legislate religious doctrine.
So if the Caliph can define the core text, he's basically asserting that he is above the divine revelation itself.
You got it.
He's effectively merging the power of church and state in the most absolute way possible.
Precisely. It was an attempt to enforce a top-down, centralized, monolithic religious dogma that was controlled by the ruling elite. Anyone who refused to accept this Makhluk doctrine wasn't just seen as a theological dissenter.
They were a political threat.
A direct political threat to the caliph's absolute authority. And this is why the caliph started the Mina, which was essentially an inquisition, to force all the prominent scholars to conform.
And Imam Hanbal's position stood directly against all of this.
Directly. His conviction, his aqidah, was that the Quran is the uncreated word of God, kalamullah khair makhluk.
Meaning it's eternal.
Eternal and co-eternal with God. And this theological stance was also a radical declaration of independence. It meant that no earthly authority, no caliph, no army, no court could alter, interpret away, or claim sovereignty over the immutable word of God.
The divine text stands above the crown.
That's the battle line. Hashtag 2.2, the stand of the Imam.
So the scene is set. You have the caliph's court. It's full of wealth and power, surrounded by all these state-sponsored scholars. And Imam Hanbal is dragged before them, basically standing alone, one scholar against an entire empire. How did he maintain his position under that kind of duress?
The intensity of the pressure, it can't be overstated. He was brought before not one, but 3 successive caliphs who continue this Mina.
Wow.
The court environment itself was a psychological weapon. The intimidation, the threats, the isolation, and the source highlights this really heartbreaking contrast. Many of the other senior scholars, the ulama, they capitulated.
They cave.
They chose political expediency and physical safety over theological integrity. They either agreed with the caliph or they just stayed silent.
Which speaks volumes about the moral hazard of being a scholar who's dependent on the state. They were protecting their worldly standing, their status, their access to power.
And their weakness just makes Hanbal's exceptional strength shine even brighter. He refused to give even an inch on the kalamullah khair makhluk doctrine. But, and this is important, the source doesn't present him as some kind of emotionless superhero.
No, it highlights his humanity.
It highlights his deeply human struggle. He was subjected to severe torture. We're talking lashing, imprisonment, and pain that was inflicted not just on his body, but the source specifically says his brain, his damag.
He was facing a complete physical and mental breakdown.
Yes, he was noted to be in great distress. The word used is prishan. He felt the calamity deeply, and he was repeatedly heard uttering that phrase of acknowledgement and surrender. Bismillah, inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi rajiun.
In the name of God, truly to God we belong, and to him we shall return.
He wasn't ignoring the pain. He was placing the pain within a divine framework. He acknowledged the trial, he felt the trial, but he never, ever let the pain break his aqidah.
And that's what makes the story so powerful. It's not just about resistance. It's about the inner management of suffering. He used his faith not to deny the pain, but to endure it.
And this endurance is the moment of his ultimate triumph. The source emphasizes the resulting peace, the joy, or kushali, and the comfort that he felt when he maintained his conviction. His steadfastness, his istiqomat, under the crushing weight of the state's power, is presented as the supreme model.
It's the visual proof.
It's the visual proof that a single individual's conviction can be stronger than the combined military and political might of an entire empire.
So the implication, and this connects right back to part 1, is crystal clear. The king in his opulent palace, seeking refuge because his power is Bessie, is fundamentally weaker than the tortured scholar whose spiritual fortitude is absolute.
That's it.
True power is mental and moral. It's derived from unwavering conviction, not from the physical strength to inflict pain.
That is the core lesson. The king commanded a fleeting allegiance. The imam commanded an eternal truth. The king's structure eventually collapsed. The imam's teaching went on to define centuries of Islamic scholarship.
Now, to really understand the gravity of injustice, the source shifts to another historical tragedy, the story of Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad. So if Imam Hanbal represents the triumph of Aqidah, then Ibn Ziyad represents the ultimate fate of the oppressor, no matter how much power they have in the
Ibn Ziyad is framed as the ultimate antithesis of faith-based leadership. He was the governor who orchestrated the horrific actions against the Prophet's own family, specifically the tragedy of Hussein, R.A. at Karbala,
Right.
and the murder of the innocent children. The Mashamin Baki of the prophetic lineage, the Kandani Nabuwat.
This was just monumental political and moral corruption, and it was all disguised as state necessity. The source narrator doesn't hold back. He explicitly labels Ibn Ziyad as a Satan, a shaitan, What does that strong language tell us about the source's view on absolute?
It tells us that Zulm, injustice, is not negotiable. It's not a gray area. It's an absolute moral evil that warrants absolute condemnation. The act of targeting the most innocent members of the prophet's family and then desecrating their memory is deemed unforgivable.
So it's a line that can't be uncrossed.
Exactly. The condemnation is rooted in this belief that true power must always serve justice. The moment it starts to serve cruelty, it forfeits all legitimacy and it invites eternal censure.
And the consequences are eternal. The source reinforces this by mentioning a tradition, a rowayat imishkat, which suggests the severity of his fate in the hereafter. It's a cautionary tale that your temporal success, holding a governorship, wielding immense power, it's all meaningless if it results in eternal punishment.
And what's particularly effective in the sermon is how quickly it connects this grand, ancient, historical injustice to the modern, mundane injustices that we see every day.
How so?
The Malana links the cruelty of Ibn Ziyad directly to those who oppress the poor, the thieves, or just the bad people, the badmash in small villages, the Gawan.
So the moral principle is scale independent.
Absolutely.
The power imbalance that allows a governor to massacre an innocent family is the same moral corrosion that lets a local strongman evict a poor person from their land.
Precisely. The lesson stays consistent. God does not help the oppressor. And this connection acts as this powerful reminder to you, the listener, that the principles of Karbala are still applicable when a local authority figure or a wealthy landowner uses their power unjustly. If you're committing zulm, you're aligning yourself with Ibn Ziyad, and the dua of the Muslim is coming for you, regardless of your status. Hashtag tag 3.2, the example of Sultan Salahuddin Ayyubi.
Okay, so now we turn to the definitive counterexample. Sultan Salahuddin Ayyubi. He's presented as the righteous leader who is aided by God. He's the complete opposite of Ibn Ziyad.
Right.
If Ibn Ziyad represents the consequence of zulm, then Salahuddin represents the blessing of God of goodness that's derived from faith.
Salahuddin is the model commander. The source discusses his involvement in the Crusades, the Salibi Jang, against his enemies, the Kafir, and of course his historic fight for Jerusalem, the Holy House, or Beitul Maqdis.
And his success isn't just presented as a result of brilliant military strategy.
No, and that's the key. That's often how secular history treats him, as this tactical genius. But the source insists his victories were conditional on something else entirely.
Which was what? His piety.
His military genius was secondary to his piety and his justice. The sermon highlights a specific moment of divine intervention, God's help, or madad. It's a moment where the enemy forces were caught in a river or a storm, a Darya Tufan.
Okay.
Now, historically, we can analyze troop movements and supply lines, but the source attributes the decisive advantage to supernatural support that was garnered by Salahuddin's righteousness.
Can you tell us more about how the sermon characterizes his piety? Beyond just this one miracle story, how did his faith translate into how he governed?
It was visible in his daily life. Salahuddin was known for his personal piety, his deep commitment to justice even for his enemies, and his humility, a trait that was completely lacking in that palace king we talked about at the beginning.
Right.
His righteousness led him to establish institutions that served the poor, that ensured fairness within his territories. And the belief is that this comprehensive justice, this alignment with divine law, is what unlocked the madad, the miraculous aid that let him surpass normal human military limitations.
So his victory wasn't just about reclaiming a piece of land. It was about proving that a leader who prioritizes faith and justice will ultimately be blessed with a more holistic kind of...
Yes. The final lesson from his story is that Salahuddin's faith brought him these comprehensive blessings, barakat. This included goodness, care, wealth, daulat, and children, batshu.
It's a complete picture.
It's a holistic success, military, political, and personal. And this stands in stark contrast to the vain king who had immense wealth but no internal peace, or to Ibn Ziyad who gained temporary power only to face eternal condemnation. For Salahuddin, spiritual integrity translated directly into a lasting positive legacy. To really solidify these lessons, the source grounds them in the foundational stories of the prophets, starting right at the beginning.
With Adam.
With Prophet Adam, Mayas, and Hawa, As, leaving paradise, Jannah.
This is the beginning of the human struggle. The source even mentions a specific geographical belief about their separation when they landed on Earth. It says Adam landed in Sri Lanka. It's referred to as Sri Lanka or Kanaka, while Hawa landed somewhere else, and they were eventually reunited.
The emphasis here is on the idea of purpose after the fall. The exile isn't the end of the story, it's the start of a journey toward reunion, and it happens through divine will. Adam becomes our ancestor and, crucially, the first prophet, which establishes the spiritual nature of human leadership.
And the essential nature of repentance, tawbah, and guidance.
Exactly. And then, following Adam, we move to Prophet Nu, AS, who provides what is maybe the most extreme example of perseverance in the entire sermon.
I mean, we are talking about an astonishing 950 years of tireless preaching of tabligh. That amount of time is almost impossible to comprehend.
It's deliberately presented that way, as an incomprehensible length of time, to really underscore the lesson.
Yep.
I mean, can you imagine the psychological weight of preaching for 9.5 centuries?
No.
He wasn't just facing rejection from a few of his contemporaries, he was facing generational scorn. His message was rejected by grandparents, then their children, and then their grandchildren.
That constant, overwhelming disbelief, the fear, it must have been just devastating. What does the sermon want the listener to take away from this marathon effort?
It's the ultimate case study in istiqomah, in steadfastness and perseverance. The value of Nu's effort was not determined by the immediate result, because he had very few believers in the end.
Right.
It was determined by his obedience in fulfilling the divine command. His experience demonstrates that failure in this life, in terms of visible results, does not negate the ultimate success of obedience. If you are performing your duty for 950 years with integrity, the measure of your success lies with the Creator, not with the creation.
This discussion on persistence and obedience leads us straight into one of the most painful paradoxes in this whole narrative. The complex situation with Prophet Muhammad's own immediate family members who rejected his core message. This really focuses on the nature of Iman versus lineage.
And the primary focus here is on Abu Talib, the prophet's uncle. The source goes to great lengths to describe his worldly virtue. He was honorable, Izzat Mandu. He provided refuge, Mufat. He protected the prophet. He fought alongside him against the leaders of Makkah, the Mushrik.
He did everything.
He provided everything humanly possible in terms of support, security, and love. He was the ultimate protector.
He was a loyal physical protector, but the source emphasizes the fatal flaw. Despite this profound personal and physical support, he died a polytheist, a mushrik.
And this leads to the ultimate and very difficult theological truth presented in the source. His kinship, his Nasbi, did not grant him salvation. The source explicitly mentions the punishment, Jahannam ki azab.
Wow.
This is so critical because it draws a clear, unyielding boundary. Spiritual affinity, Iman, is paramount, and it's non-transferable. Blood ties are secondary.
So his physical proximity to the prophet gave him worldly honor and protection, but it couldn't substitute for his own personal conviction.
Exactly. The source briefly contrasts him with Abu Lahab, another uncle, who was an active and explicit enemy. Both of them illustrate that lineage alone is not enough, but Abu Talib's case is the more poignant tragedy.
Because he was so close.
So close. He provided every worldly benefit while withholding the single spiritual currency that actually mattered.
The source clarifies this point by using the analogy of Prophet Nu again. Nu's own biological son was swept away in the flood because he disbelieved.
While those who did believe, even if they weren't related by blood, they were saved. The true heirs of Nu were the community of faith, not his biological.
And this just underscores the fact that faith is an absolute individual choice. You can't inherit it. You can't borrow it from an esteemed relative. And the source includes a brief mention of Abbas, R.A., another uncle, whose later conversion reaffirms that the door to Iman is an individual decision, irrespective of the painful dynamics of family ties. Hashtag 4.3 Ibrahim and ultimate obedience.
To wrap up this section on the foundations of faith, we look at the ultimate test of human obedience, Prophet Ibrahim. A.S. We recall the story of him being commanded to leave his wife Hajar and his son Ismail, A.S., when Ismail was still just a baby, a Masum Baki, near the desolate location of the Kaaba, the Baitullah.
This is a story of ultimate surrender. The command, the hukam from God, was utterly irrational and emotionally devastating from a human point of view.
It's unimaginable.
He was being asked to leave his most beloved child, the fulfillment of all his prayers, in a barren, waterless steppe. Why does the source highlight this specific story in the context of resisting worldly power and finding strength?
Because it establishes the absolute hierarchy of loyalty. Ibrahim's faith was proven by his willingness to comply with a divine decree without any hesitation. He willingly surrendered control over the most precious thing in his life, his own son, to the ultimate authority.
Which is the polar opposite of the king in the palace.
The polar opposite. The king used his wealth and power to try and control every single element of his environment, to define need. Ibrahim embraced need. He prioritized the divine hukam above everything else, even basic human instinct.
And this serves as the perfect transition because it shows that true resilience and success are built on acknowledging the absolute sovereignty of God, which we now have to delve in.
So, having established the failures of human power and the triumph of spiritual conviction, we now have to consolidate the theological bedrock of this entire sermon.
Okay.
The source reiterates that God is the true owner, the Malik of everything. The universe, Kainat Kamalik, our children, our honor, our Izzat.
So the king's conditional power that we discussed at the very beginning, it's just a borrowed resource. It's a fleeting arrangement inside a much larger, unbreakable system.
The Nizam-e Rabul Alamin, the system of the Lord of the Worlds.
Right.
And this system is characterized by omniscience, total knowledge. The source emphasizes the divine attributes. God is the knower, Alim, the aware, Kabir, and the hearer, Sami.
He knows the hidden secrets.
He is Purdu Kabardar, and he knows the ultimate outcome of everything, whether it appears to us as good, care, or evil, Shar.
Okay, that concept that God is the creator, the Khalik of all things, including good and evil, that's one of the deepest philosophical points in this whole sermon. It needs some careful explanation. How do we reconcile God creating evil with our own human moral responsibility?
This is addressed through a really important distinction between the Khalik, the creator, and the Sabab, which is the cause or the actor. God is the ultimate creator of all reality, all potential. That includes the existence of both care, good potential, and shar, evil potential. However, we humans are the Sabab. We are the actors, the causes, who choose which of those potentials to bring into reality.
So if I pick up a knife, the knife itself and its potential to cut were created by the divine, but I, the human, am the sabab that chooses whether to use that created potential to slice bread, which is a good act, or to injure someone, which is an evil act.
That's a perfect analogy. God creates the tools, the rules, and the entire system. We humans exercise our moral agency to determine the application. Our moral responsibility lies entirely in being the proper sabab, the righteous actor.
While at the same time acknowledging that control over the ultimate result, the outcome, is impossible. It rests entirely with the divine system.
Exactly. And that understanding allows a believer to act with absolute moral conviction, like Imam Hanbal did, without despairing over whether their actions will immediately succeed or fail, because the outcome is not theirs to control. Hashtag 5.2, the test of the simultaneous prayers.
Now, to bring this big philosophical concept down to the level of personal conviction, the source uses an incredibly powerful analogy. It's the test of two simultaneous prayers. This is where the strength of Akeda is measured in the most absolute.
It is. So you have two people praying at the exact same time. One sincerely calls out, Ya Allah, O God, invoking the singular, uncreated creator.
And then the other.
The other is worshiping an idol, and they are saying, Ya Sanam, O idol. It's a direct, measurable test of which source has real power and responsibility.
And what is the immediate divine response to the sincere believer?
When the sincere believer calls out, the response from the heavens is immediate, it's resounding, and it is deeply personal. It is the confirmation of an intimate connection. The response is, Labaik, Ya Abdi.
I am here on my sin.
I am here. And this response is so significant that the source notes it is also heard by the angels, the Farishta. It confirms that the believer's call has cosmic significance. It resonates to the entire spiritual realm.
What does that labak mean for the believer in the context of this whole deep dive?
It means that every single time they call, their connection is validated. It validates the struggles of the Muslim. It validates the 950 years of perseverance of Nuh. It validates the steadfastness of Imam Hanbal.
So their suffering isn't in vain.
It's not in vain. Their call is heard, and it is answered personally. Their faith is directed towards a responsive, living, eternal entity.
And for the polytheist's call to the idol, what happens there?
The source makes it emphatically clear. The polytheist call gets no answer. No labaik. The voice just echoes into a void.
Nothing.
Nothing. It confirms that directing your worldly effort, even if it's heartfelt, towards a false or powerless source, an idol, or maybe the palace of that king, is ultimately futile. The idol is mkluk. It's created and temporary. The only valid recipient of prayer is the Khalik, the creator.
The sermon adds a beautiful detail here, saying that the angels continually greet the community, the ummah of the prophet, SIW, with salutations, with salam, at all times and in all places.
It's this ongoing affirmation. It's a sign of the status and the protection that is given to those who align their lives and their Akeda with this singular responsive system. It contrasts the deafening silence received by the idol worshiper with the ongoing, constant spiritual acknowledgement received by the believer. Hashtag 5.3 Final Reflections on Faith.
The entire journey of this sermon, from that vain king and his palace to the ultimate obedience of Ibrahim, it all culminates in one single unified message about the nature of prosperity.
The source reemphasizes that true prosperity, true protection, and lasting honor are derived fundamentally from correct faith, from Akedah.
Not from your worldly achievements.
They do not come from fleeting worldly achievements or from accumulated wealth. The mahal, the palace, is a temporary structure. Akedah is an eternal shelter.
And if that core faith is deficient, if it becomes what the source calls a kafir akedah, a disbelieving conviction, then everything else is spiritually lost, regardless of your external success.
That's the tragic lesson of Abu Talib.
Yeah.
This deep dive has shown us examples of people who were facing overwhelming odds, political persecution, generational rejection, immense personal sacrifice. In every single case, their success or their honor was tied directly to their internal spiritual conviction, their istiqamah.
And that conviction isn't just, a personal comfort.
Well, no, it's the ultimate non-conditional source of power and resilience against the chaos and injustices of the world. It's what allowed Imam Hanbal to break the state's political will without lifting a single finger. #outro. We began this dive looking at that opulent palace and the king's inevitable weakness, his Bessie, and we contrasted that with the absolute power that is inherent in the simple unveiled prayer of the Muslim. The source material, through all these historical examples and theological frameworks, it forces us to rigorously audit where we place our ultimate trust. Earthly power is always conditional. The power that's derived from faith is absolute because it connects directly to the eternal.
That's right. We saw in the case of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal that standing firm on a core theological belief, Kalamullah Kermakluk, required him to be ready to suffer horrific physical pain and mental distress, his dimag. And in the deeply challenging case of Abu Talib, we learned that good intentions, physical protection, lifelong loyalty, none of it is enough. Spiritual affinity, Iman, is the only currency that ultimately matters.
The sermon, at the end of the day, it isn't a political blueprint. It's a profound blueprint for internal fortitude. It provides the theological justification for perseverance and for resistance by mapping our human action onto the divine decree through that concept of the khaliq and the sabab.
We've explored this idea that khair, good, and shar, evil, they originate ultimately from the creator, with we humans acting as the sabab, the cause or the actor who applies that potential. So if all outcomes, good and bad, are ultimately part of the divine system, the nizam-i Rabbul Alameen, how does that knowledge change your immediate reaction the next time you face an unexpected difficulty or an unexpected blessing?
That knowledge, that conviction, it shifts your focus. It shifts it away from trying to manage outcomes, which is impossible, to perfecting your own role as the righteous cause. So the question for you, the listener, remains, what part of that complex system are you responsible for perfecting in the Maidan-e Amal?
We hope this deep dive provides you with a shortcut to being well informed on this intricate and powerful material. Until next time. Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission today is to pull back the curtain on a life story that is so dramatically full of reversals and triumphs, it almost reads less like history and more like an epic.
It really does.
We are diving deep into the sources concerning a figure whose resilience and, whose moral authority really laid the actual foundation for one of the world's major religions.
We are focusing on Hazrat Bilal ibn Rabah, peace be upon him. And if you're here to gain a thorough, impactful understanding of the earliest days of Islam, his journey is, well, it's your essential roadmap.
It's a study in extremes, isn't it?
It is. We're talking about a man who entered history as property, legal, chattel. But he exited it as a figure of such profound respect that his voice, literally his voice, defined the sound of faith for every single generation that followed.
What fascinates me immediately, and what the sources just lay bare, is this profound paradox in his story. The narrative tension is it's unavoidable. How could a person subjected to the most dehumanizing torture, someone at the very, very bottom of the social ladder, simultaneously possess a lineage of incredible power, and then on top of that, rise to become one of the most respected political and spiritual icons of his time?
That paradox is the engine of our deep dive. To really understand his ultimate triumph, we have to grasp the sheer height of his family's original status and then, the depth of his eventual fall.
Okay, let's unpack this right away, because when we think of Bilal, we primarily think of the freed slave of Mecca. But the story, as you're saying, starts far from Arabia. It starts in the African empire his mother came from. What do the sources tell us about his origin?
They reveal a background that is completely contrary to his slave status in Mecca. Bilal was, in fact, born of royalty.
Royalty.
Yes. His mother, his mama, was identified as an Abyssinian Princess Habashi Kishazadi. And we're not talking about some minor, regional noble family. His family's empire was vast. It encompassed significant territory stretching from modern-day Ethiopia all the way into what we now know as Yemen.
So this was a position of immense inherited authority.
Absolutely.
Which means we have a really high stakes fall from grace. How does a princess from a powerful ruling house end up being seized and sold as property in a relatively small trading city like Mecca? This has to involve a massive geopolitical event.
It connects directly to one of the most famous events in Arabian history, what's referred to as the Year of the Elephant. The sources point to a major geopolitical shift, and it's spearheaded by a figure named Abraha. Right. Abraha was a local governor in Yemen who revolted against the Abyssinian king and successfully broke Yemen away from Habasha, or Abyssinia. This immediately made him the dominant power in the southern Arabian Peninsula.
And that shift puts him directly in competition with Mecca, which was, it was flourishing economically mainly because of the Kaaba.
Exactly. Abraha was a powerful king, no doubt, but he recognized that the engine of Arabian commerce, of Arabian identity, was the Kaaba and the annual pilgrimage, the Hajj.
Right.
That pilgrimage was Mecca's entire economic model. It was their national GDP, if you want to think of it that way. It funded and sustained the city's power. And Abraha became, obsessed with diverting that wealth to his capital in Yemen.
And his solution, according to the sources, was what they call a stupid idea. Tell us about his attempt to undermine Mecca's spiritual and economic authority.
It was a monumental undertaking, but just, strategically a total mess. Abraha constructed this massive, dazzling church in his capital city in Yemen. The scale and the luxury were meant to impress, to compete directly with the Kaaba.
So the idea was to build something bigger and better.
Exactly. He intended for the Arab tribes, who were traditionally linked to Mecca for centuries, to divert their annual pilgrimage and all their trade to his new Christian building.
Which predictably failed to overturn thousands of years of tradition.
It failed spectacularly. The sources show the Arab tribes, they just maintained their allegiance to the ancient site of the Kaaba. And this failure enraged Abraha, whose pride and ambition were enormous.
So that leads to his catastrophic decision.
It does. If he couldn't divert the traffic, he would simply destroy the source. He launched an invasion, marching on Mecca with an army of approximately 60,000 men, and he had war elephants, which absolutely terrified the Meccans.
And it's within this massive invading force that Bilal's mother, Princess Hamama, is involved.
That's right. She was part of Abraha's traveling camp, or maybe his entourage, during this invasion. Now, this famous historical event, it's referenced in the Quran and Surah Al-Fil, saw Abraha's seemingly unstoppable army defeated by what the Meccans saw as a divine miracle.
And the crucial consequence for our story.
The consequence is that Abraha was killed, and the Meccans, despite their terror, managed to take prisoners from the defeated camp. And Princess Hamama, despite her royal past, was seized as a captive of war.
A truly monumental descent. From a figure of international royalty to a captive on the losing side of a skirmish. And the sources confirm she was then sold into slavery in Mecca.
Yes, she was a valuable captive, and she was purchased by a man whose name is now basically synonymous with cruelty in early Islamic history, Umayyah ibn Khalaf.
Umayyah ibn Khalaf.
The sources explicitly describe him as the cruelest, most ruthless chief in all of Mecca.
Wow. Okay, so that sets the stage for Bilal's birth, and the timeline here is remarkable, isn't it?
It places Bilal right at the historical nexus. The sources suggest he was born in the same year that Abraha died, the Year of the Elephant, and roughly 10 years after the Prophet Muhammad was born. So Hamama, the former princess, was now a slave, and she subsequently married another slave under Umayyah's ownership.
And Meccan law was, it was unforgiving regarding generational bondage.
Absolutely. The sources are very clear on this. Under Meccan customary law, the children of slaves automatically inherited their parents' legal status. They became property of the master for life. It was a mechanism designed to ensure continuous servitude.
So Bilal was therefore born into unbreakable servitude to Umayyah ibn Khalaf. But here's the narrative curveball. The sources suggest his mother instilled in him a different self-perception, separating him from the typical mindset of other slaves.
This is the critical psychological detail. While Bilal was legally a slave, his mother carried the residue of her royal upbringing, and she raised him, as the sources say, not as a slave, but as a prince.
Which wouldn't have meant physical luxury, I assume.
No, not at all. but rather an inner sense of dignity, of self-respect, and moral independence. This is crucial because it gives us the context for his eventual defiance. He wasn't raised to have a slave mentality. He was raised with an inherent sense of being owed respect, which of course clashes violently with Umayyah's ownership.
So his inner life was radically different from his outward legal status. That disparity must have created a fertile ground for change when the prophet's message finally began circulating.
Precisely. That internal integrity is what allowed him to receive the message, even while being confined to the very household of the enemy.
Which brings us right into part 2, the unbreakable word. This confrontation starts when Bilal reaches roughly 30 years old, which coincides with the beginning of the prophet's mission. Tell us about his unique position within Umayyah's household.
Well, Bilal was essentially trapped behind enemy lines. The first revelation, the command to read, had just descended. The new faith was still, secret or being shared very quietly, and Umayyah was one of its most outspoken, aggressive opponents.
And because Bilal was Umayyah's trusted, highly placed slave, he was in a privileged, though very perilous position to hear everything.
That's the strategic insight. He wasn't just hearing rumors on the street. He was basically sitting in on the Meccan chief's war planning sessions.
Yes.
Umayyah was constantly speaking out against the prophet, trying to slander the message and devise ways to suppress this small community of believers. And Bilal, who was required to be silently present or nearby, was internalizing all of this. He wasn't hearing the message directly from the prophet. He was hearing Umayyah's terrified, hate-filled reaction to it.
And that must have given him a unique perspective to weigh the prophet's character and words against the manifest arrogance and cruelty of the Meccan.
It was an accelerated spiritual process. He realized that the hatred of the Meccan elite only confirmed the truth of the prophet's message of equality and submission to one God. So this quiet intellectual conviction developed into a deep internal love for the prophet, long before his conversion was ever public.
So when does this secret devotion get exposed? How does it transform from a quiet internal shift to a matter of life and death?
It happens as the number of converts grew, and Umayyah and the other chiefs began actively persecuting the more vulnerable converts. The discovery of Bilal's conversion came through public humiliation, which for Umayyah was the deepest possible insult.
How did he find out?
He was arguing with another chief one day, bragging about his efforts to crush the new faith, and the other chief just mocked him. He said something like, "You talk a lot, Umayyah, yet your own favorite, most trusted slave, Bilal, has joined the opposition."
Ouch. The betrayal was deep, but that public embarrassment must have turned Umayyah's anger into madness.
Absolutely. The sources really stress the profound symbolism of this betrayal. Bilal wasn't just Umayyah's best slave. He was trusted with the keys to Umayyah's private idol room. He was the guardian of Umayyah's false gods.
Wow.
So for Bilal to reject those idols and embrace monotheism while he was in possession of those very keys, it was the ultimate personal and symbolic rejection of Umayyah's entire worldview. The public laughter, the mockery, it just fueled Umayyah's profound, immediate rage.
And that rage led to one of the most systematic, brutal campaigns of torture recorded in the early sources. Let's slow down here. This suffering is the defining crucible of his commitment. What was the progression of Umayyah's cruelty?
Umayyah intended not just to punish Bilal, but to utterly break his spirit and use him as a terrifying example to other slaves who might be thinking about converting. The torture began immediately with the traditional use of lashes whipping.
Standard, I suppose.
Right. But when Bilal's commitment remained firm, Umayyah resorted to environmental and psychological torture. He designed it to turn the harsh Arabian climate into a weapon.
This is the famous story of the steel armor.
Yes. Bilal was forced to wear heavy, thick steel armor, the sort of material you'd use for battle, not desert wear. Then he was dragged out into the peak heat of the day, exposed to the unrelenting Saudi sun. We're talking about temperatures that routinely exceed 50 degrees Celsius or 122 Fahrenheit.
Unbelievable.
And the armor, being made of metal, would heat up rapidly, turning into a searing oven. It wasn't just a physical constraint, it was literally burning his skin underneath. It's a slow, agonizing process of roasting him alive.
It sounds like a sophisticated form of sadism, trying to find a punishment worse than just whipping.
It was. But when Umayyah grew tired of that, he introduced public humiliation. He started outsourcing the cruelty. He turned Bilal over to the Meccan street boys. Yes. These children, driven by boredom and Umayyah's perverse instruction, would tie Bilal's hands and feet and just drag him through the narrow, scorching alleys of Mecca. The intent was to degrade him utterly, to turn his agony into a public spectacle. It was meant to strip him of any remaining human dignity in the eyes of the populace.
But the defining moment, the one that really seals Bilal's legacy in terms of resilience, is the confrontation with the Great Stone.
This was the final, most desperate measure. Umayyah would lay Bilal out on the hot desert sand, exposed to the blistering sun, so he was effectively being roasted from above and below. Then he would place a massive, heavy rock, some sources say it was a piece of mountain granite, directly onto Bilal's chest.
And the goal was just to crush him until he broke.
Crushing pressure, pain, and eventual suffocation.
Yes, and the demand was simple: renounce the prophet and acknowledge the Meccan gods.
Umayyah demanded he recite the names of their idols, Lat and Uzza. This was the ultimate test. Under this immense, life-threatening pressure, what did Bilal say?
The single defiant word, Ahad, one.
Over and over and over again. Despite the agony, despite the lack of oxygen, the only word Bilal would utter was, Ahad, God is one. It's the purest possible declaration of monotheism, spoken while literally being crushed by the representative of polytheism.
That one word, that pure commitment, it must have enraged Umayyah beyond measure, because it wasn't just defiance, it was an absolute spiritual rejection of everything he stood for.
It was unbearable for Umayyah. The sources note his absolute madness. He tried reasoning, he tried threatening, and when that failed, he just escalated the pressure. He placed a second large stone and then a third, until Bilal finally lost consciousness, unable to even whisper the word Ahad anymore. This level of unrelenting inhumanity, it couldn't be ignored by the small Muslim community, especially not by those who had the financial means to intervene.
Given that harrowing description of torment, the sources point to a moment where the injustice just could no longer stand. So who stepped in to change Bilal's fate? And what does that moment tell us about the emerging economic structure of the new?
The savior was Abu Bakr. He was one of the wealthiest and most highly respected merchants in Mecca and a devoted follower of the Prophet. Abu Bakr just couldn't tolerate the sight of this systematic torture being inflicted on Bilal day after day.
So what did he do?
He approached Umayyah, not demanding release, but appealing for basic human mercy, asking Umayyah when he intended to stop this brutality.
And Umayyah, filled with spite and arrogance, saw an opportunity to exploit Abu Bakr's compassion.
He did. Umayyah just scoffed, and he dared Abu Bakr. If you care so much about this slave, then buy him. And Umayyah, knowing Abu Bakr's wealth, decided to set an exorbitant price. He intentionally priced Bilal far, far above market value. He was aiming to deter Abu Bakr, or at least extract the maximum financial penalty while retaining his pride.
And the negotiation that followed really illustrates the clash between the old economy of Meccan materialism and this new economy of faith and character.
Absolutely. Abu Bakr didn't even haggle. Despite the ludicrous price set by Umayyah, a price meant to humiliate him, Abu Bakr immediately agreed to the transaction. But the exchange didn't end there. Once the money changed hands, Umayyah, in a final act of bitter pride, laughed at Abu Bakr. He claimed he would have sold Bilal for far less, mocking Abu Bakr for overpaying for a broken slave.
But Abu Bakr countered with a line that perfectly summarizes his value system, didn't he?
He did. Abu Bakr stated that if Umayyah had demanded 100 dinars, an even higher, completely unreasonable sum, he would have paid it without a second thought. This single transaction, more than any sermon, established the moral economy of the faith. Human dignity and piety were priceless. They transcended any material valuation.
And what was the immediate result of this liberation?
Abu Bakr immediately freed Bilal. And Bilal, who had been Umayyah's property since the day he was born, was now a free man, able to join the Muslim community openly and sit as an equal with the Prophet. This liberation was critical because it immediately created an explosive social crisis in Mecca.
Because now, the social structure of Mecca was inverted. Former slaves like Bilal, Ammar ibn Yasir, and others were now viewed with the same respect as the Prophet himself. And this was completely intolerable to the Meccan elite.
That's where the clash of cultures became unavoidable. The Meccan chiefs, these men who based their entire identity on lineage, on clan power, and inherited wealth, they found it fundamentally offensive to see their former property, especially those of African heritage like Bilal, sitting as honored equals in the Prophet's presence.
And they took their racist and classist demands directly to the Prophet, didn't they? They tried to force him to revert to the old.
They did. They demanded that if the Prophet wished to negotiate or meet with them, he must dismiss these black and inferior slaves from his company. They insisted that status must be acknowledged above piety, and that their honor was being sullied by associating with the formerly enslaved.
This sounds like a moment of theological and social crisis for the young community, and the response came via divine revelation, confirming this principle of absolute equality.
This is why Bilal's life is so central to the theology of equality in Islam. In response to the chief's pride and racism, the verses of Surah Al-Kahf were immediately revealed. These verses instructed the prophet, "Keep yourself content with those who call on their Lord morning and evening, desiring his face, and do not let your eyes pass beyond them, desiring the adornments of the worldly life."
That is a profound message. It's an instruction to prioritize the truly pious and sincere, regardless of their wealth or lineage, over the arrogant elite.
It was a radical social engineering command for 7th century Arabia, and the prophet enforced this immediately. He deliberately honored the presence of those weaker, formerly enslaved Muslims like Bilal over the protesting Meccans. He was establishing the foundational principle. The only measure of superiority is piety, or taqwa, not pedigree, race, or material wealth. This moment cemented Bilal's status as a symbol of divine justice.
The persecution eventually forced the community to abandon Mecca for Medina, the Great Migration, the Hijra. Once they arrived and the dust settled, they needed a way to organize their spiritual life.
Right. The first step in Medina was building the foundation of the community, Masjid al-Nabawi, the Prophet's mosque. Once that was complete, they faced a practical necessity. How do they call people, scattered throughout the growing city, to the 5 daily prayers in an organized way?
And they considered what they knew from neighboring cultures, right?
Exactly. They discussed lighting a fire on a hill, similar to practices used to gather armies. Others suggested using a horn or even a bell, methods they had seen practiced by the Jewish and Christian communities. They were really just seeking a functional communication method.
But the answer came not from technology or imitation, but from divine guidance through a dream.
Yes, a companion approached the prophet describing a dream where he saw a man teaching him a specific, measured sequence of powerful words for the prayer call. The man in the dream explicitly rejected using instruments like horns or bells. The message was clear. Use the human voice.
And this was confirmed.
It was. Another companion, Umar, immediately confirmed he had seen the exact same divine instruction in a dream. So it was clear the content of the call, the Ahan, was confirmed.
Now comes the defining decision. Who will be entrusted with giving this sacred call? Who would be the voice of the faith?
The prophet's choice was deliberate, and it was the ultimate fulfillment of Bilal's journey from property to piety. He ordered the companion who saw the dream to teach the words the Adhan to Bilal, specifically noting that Bilal had a very high and beautiful voice. The man who had been tortured for his one word, Ahad, was now entrusted with broadcasting the full declaration of faith across the new capital.
Let's just pause and consider the words themselves. The Adhan begins, Allahu Akbar, God is the greatest. Then the testimony of faith, and finally the invitation to success. It's a direct, poetic, and powerful sound that rejects all the idols and establishes monotheism.
And its delivery required a specific kind of resonance, a beauty which Bilal possessed. So the first official Adhan was given by Bilal, standing in the Prophet's mosque. Think about the profound reversal. The most humiliated man in Mecca became the spiritual mouthpiece of the entire community.
And the sources make that beautiful, almost chilling point about the lasting impact of that single.
They do. They note that since that day, nearly 1,400 years ago, there has never been a single second that passes anywhere on earth without the Adhan being sounded. It is the continuous spiritual clock of the world. And that unbroken chain of sound began with the voice of the former slave. That is the lasting, global triumph of his original defiant word, Ahad.
This triumph takes on a much sharper, more personal edge when we move into part 4, the confrontation with the past. After the Hijra, the tension with Mecca culminates in the Battle of Badr, and it is here that Bilal finally confronts the man who tortured him, Umayyah ibn Khalaf.
The Battle of Badr was the ultimate test for the new community, a small, ill-equipped force of 313 Muslims against a powerful Meccan army of around 1,000. Against all military logic, the Muslims secured a decisive victory, and they captured many key Meccan leaders. Umayyah ibn Khalaf was among the prisoners.
The moment Bilal spotted his former master must have been a seismic emotional event.
It was pure, raw vengeance. The sight of Umayyah, now stripped of his power and his authority, it just triggered years of agonizing memory for Bilal. He immediately declared his purpose to his Medinan brothers. There he is. This is the one who tortured me in Mecca. Today, either he lives or I do.
The sources offer a vivid, almost comical detail of Umayyah trying to escape.
They do. Umayyah is described as being a cruel man, but also quite heavy-set. He tried desperately to run, but Bilal and his companions just fueled by years of pent-up anger, quickly surrounded him.
There was an attempt to stop it, though.
There was a brief pause, yes. Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, the companion who had witnessed the purchase of Bilal, tried to intercede. He argued that Umayyah was a prisoner and should be spared according to the rules of engagement.
But the personal nature of the torment, the memory of those heavy stones, it was just too much for Bilal and his comrades.
The emotional intensity of the persecution was overwhelming. The memory of the torture, not just of Bilal, but of so many other oppressed Muslims, it just drove their decision. The collective rage overcame the rules concerning prisoners. They surrounded Umayyah and killed him, avenging the years of unimaginable torment and achieving a profound personal closure.
After Badr, Bilal's relationship with the Prophet solidified even further. He wasn't just the muezzin anymore. He became indispensable to the Prophet's administrative and personal.
Absolutely. Bilal was a constant, trusted companion. He participated in every major military campaign that followed Uhud, Khandak, Khaybar. But the key elevation was administrative. The Prophet made Bilal his personal secretary or his gatekeeper.
So the man who was once dragged and unseen through the alleys of Mecca now held the key of the Prophet's private audience.
It's the ultimate role reversal. Anyone who sought an audience with the Prophet, whether it was powerful foreign envoys, military commanders, or even the closest companions, they had to first seek permission from Bilal. This was a continuous public declaration by the Prophet that character and piety were the only true markers of status, placing Bilal, the former property, above many of the proud nobles who had only recently converted.
But the true climax of his life, the scene that defines the victory over the old order, is the conquest of Mecca, the Fath Makkah.
Yes. 8 years after leaving Mecca as refugees, the Muslims returned with an army of 10,000 strong and conquered the city peacefully. And in that moment of absolute unquestioned triumph, the Prophet had a symbolic choice to make.
He had his greatest military commanders, his closest advisors, men of high Meccan lineage. Who did he choose to perform the climactic, defining act of the conquest?
He bypassed all of them. He called Bilal forward and gave him a singular monumental order. Go and give the first adhan in Mecca.
And he didn't give it from the square. He gave it from the roof of the Kaaba itself.
He ascended to the highest, holiest point in the entire city, the roof of the very structure Umayyah had tried to destroy, and whose idols Umayyah had forced Bilal to serve. And from that height, the triumphant voice of Bilal, the former slave, sounded the adhan across the city. It was the absolute public confirmation that the old order of racism, class, and lineage had been smashed.
And the reaction of the surviving Meccan elite, watching this display of honor given to the man they had despised and tortured, it must have been utterly visceral.
The sources record their profound bitterness. Their arrogance and racism had not just vanished overnight. As Bilal gave the call, the Meccan chiefs watched in shock and resentment. The sources cite a deeply cutting remark from Abu Jahl's brother Ikrimah, who allegedly said, "Couldn't he find anyone else?"
Wow.
And another Meccan man expressed gratitude that his father had died, fearing he would have died of shock and humiliation seeing this black slave Bilal given so much honor. The physical victory was complete, but the moral transformation was clearly still agonizing for the former power brokers.
The Prophet was exceptionally protective of Bilal's feelings and his dignity, even above the standing of his most senior companion. This leads to perhaps the most powerful story confirming Bilal's unassailable status.
This is a story of theological protection. After the general pardon in Mecca, Bilal encountered Abu Sufyan, one of the former chiefs who had recently converted. And Bilal expressed some bitterness, saying Abu Sufyan was lucky the sword of Allah had not reached his neck. Abu Bakr, the respected elder, chided Bilal for speaking so harshly to a former leader.
Abu Bakr was likely trying to enforce social etiquette among the new converts, but the Prophet immediately saw the greater danger in insulting Bilal.
The Prophet's response was swift and absolute. It was an extraordinary warning aimed at the heart of the community structure. He famously warned Abu Bakr, "If you have made Bilal angry with your words, know that you have also made Allah angry."
That elevates Bilal's respect from a social suggestion to a divine imperative.
It does. And how did Abu Bakr respond to that profound warning?
With immediate humility.
Yes. Abu Bakr, the man who was destined to become the first caliph, immediately sought out Bilal, physically lay down next to him, and apologized for his words, asking Bilal to forgive him. This action cemented the non-negotiable reality of racial and social equality in the new community.
And the Prophet solidified Bilal's eternal status with a breathtaking spiritual testimony.
He stated, "I have heard the footsteps of Bilal in paradise." I mean, that's the final word on his status, a guaranteed place in the highest rank. And moreover, the prophet used his final sermon to dismantle the old racial hierarchies explicitly, declaring that no white person has superiority over a black person, and no black person has superiority over a white person. Entire existence was the living, breathing proof of that declaration.
As we move into the post-prophetic era, the emotional depth of Bilal's loyalty becomes painfully clear. We see his immense grief following the prophet's passing.
It was a period of overwhelming devastation for Bilal. He had loved and served the prophet completely. As the prophet was nearing death, Bilal just couldn't bear the suffering and wished he had died first. When the time came for the first prayer after the prophet's passing, Bilal attempted, out of habit and duty, to give the adhan.
But the weight of the loss was just too heavy.
As he reached the phrase, Ashhadu Anna Muhammadan Rasul Allah, I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, the emotional dam just broke. He wept uncontrollably, unable to continue, and the sources say the entire city of Medina wept with him, understanding that that era was truly over. Bilal made a solemn vow. He would never give the adhan again after the beloved prophet had passed.
And this intense loyalty made it impossible for him to remain in Medina, the city that was now saturated with memories.
Every corner, every sound, reminded him of his master and friend. He approached the new caliph, Abu Bakr, requesting permission to leave Medina to serve the faith on the frontiers. Abu Bakr, who wanted to keep this symbol of the faith in the capital, insisted he stay.
And Bilal posed that poignant ethical question, the ultimate loyalty test, to Abu Bakr.
He asked, "Did you free me from slavery for yourself or for Allah? If for yourself, I will stay. If for Allah, do not stop me from leaving to serve the faith where I am needed." And because Abu Bakr's action had been purely for the sake of God, he couldn't in good conscience deny Bilal this. He granted permission, and Bilal departed for Sham, or Syria, to participate in the burgeoning expansion of the caliphate.
Years passed, and Bilal's voice was silent until the caliphate expanded dramatically under the second caliph, Umar ibn. This new era of expansion required Bilal's symbolic voice.
The caliphate under Umar was massive. It tripled the size of the empire. Following critical military victories like Yarmouk and Qadisiyah, the Muslims successfully conquered Jerusalem, a city revered by all three Abrahamic faiths. Once the new Masjid al-Aqsa was constructed on the sacred site, Caliph Umar requested Bilal make a special journey.
And for the first time in years, Bilal agreed to give the adhan.
He did. Umar requested that Bilal give the adhan, the very first call to prayer in Jerusalem under the Muslim Caliphate. This act completed an unparalleled symbolic feat. Bilal had now given the inaugural adhan in all three holy cities of Islam: Mecca, the birthplace, Medina, the capital, and Jerusalem, the city of the Prophet. It was a powerful symbolic moment of unity and conquest.
But beyond the spiritual significance of the adhan, Bilal wanted immense, trusted political power under Caliph Umar. The former slave became a high-ranking state functionary in the largest empire of the world.
Umar's trust in Bilal was absolute. The sources confirm that Bilal was appointed a key member of the Caliphate's intelligence agency. His role involved delivering crucial news, military reports, and sensitive executive orders directly to the Caliph. This placed him in a uniquely powerful, trusted position, often bypassing officials of higher birthright.
We have to stop and dwell on the most explosive example of this trust: the removal of the legendary general Khalid bin Walid.
This is one of the most remarkable anecdotes showcasing Bilal's supreme status. Khalid bin Walid, known as the Sword of God, was arguably the most successful military general in Islamic history, responsible for vast territorial gains. However, Caliph Umar, due to concerns about the general's growing personal wealth and public perception, made the politically sensitive decision to remove him from command.
That is an incredibly delicate, potentially explosive task, removing a universally loved military legend. Why was Bilal, a man who lacked the pedigree of the nobility, chosen for this executive mission?
It speaks volumes about Umar's governing philosophy and Bilal's status as a symbol of impartiality. Umar chose Bilal precisely because he was perceived as serving only God and the Caliphate, untainted by the tribal loyalties or political maneuvering of the Meccan elite. His integrity was unquestionable. So he was the messenger who delivered the highly sensitive, explosive order to the great general, removing him from command.
So the man who was once unseen property was now the executive officer capable of commanding obedience from the greatest military figure of the age.
His status had completely inverted. And this was confirmed socially, too. The sources note that Bilal married the sister of Abdul Rahman bin Auf, who was, at the time, one of the wealthiest men in the world. The social barriers were completely eradicated. The former common slave had become interconnected with the highest echelons of global wealth and political power.
Now, for the final poignant act of his life, the very last adhan he ever gave. Even after leaving Medina, he was compelled by a dream to return.
While in Sham, Bilal dreamt that the Prophet appeared to him, asking, "Bilal, what has happened to you? Why do you not visit us anymore?" Bilal woke up weeping, just overcome by grief and love, and immediately traveled straight back to Medina.
And who was it that finally convinced him to break his vow, even briefly?
In Medina, he was greeted by Hassan and Hussein, the Prophet's beloved young grandsons. They affectionately requested that he give the adhan one last time, purely to remind them of the era of their grandfather. And Bilal, who could never refuse those two boys, especially Hassan, who so closely resembled the Prophet, he agreed.
He stood in the Prophet's mosque years after his initial vow. What happened when his voice rang?
The moment people heard the unmistakable sound of Bilal's high, beautiful voice, echoing the soundscape of the Prophet's lifetime, the city just stopped. People rushed from the markets, leaving their shops unattended, running toward the mosque, all of them weeping. It was this wave of nostalgia and profound devotion.
But he couldn't finish it.
No. Once again, when Bilal reached the name Muhammad, the messenger of Allah, his voice broke. He wept uncontrollably, tried once more, but failed.
That emotional inability to finish confirmed his vow.
It was his final adhan. He returned to Sham and died there a few years later.
Finally, we have to connect this incredible life story to its ultimate global legacy, specifically in Africa. The sources note that Bilal became a figure of enormous historical importance across the continent.
Bilal became extraordinarily famous throughout the continent, symbolizing not just religious faith, but the triumph of the oppressed and the validation of African heritage. He was the proof that the highest spiritual authority could be achieved by someone of African lineage, overriding centuries of imposed servitude.
And the ultimate expression of this lasting reverence comes centuries later with the man considered the wealthiest person in human history.
Yes, Mansa Musa, the legendary 14th century ruler of the Mali Empire. Mansa Musa's wealth, often estimated at over $500 billion in modern terms, was just astronomical. And the sources note that he proudly claimed descent from Bilal.
Now, is that lineage historically verifiable?
In the modern genealogical sense, probably not with complete certainty, but the claim itself is the most powerful evidence of Bilal's enduring legacy.
The fact that the most powerful, wealthiest man on earth would want to claim the former slave of Mecca as his ancestor, that tells you everything about the moral and spiritual currency Bilal achieved.
It proves that the honor he gained transcended any material title or kingdom. The former common slave of Umayyah ibn Khalaf became an ancestor proudly claimed by the world's most powerful and wealthiest figures, transforming Bilal into an icon of African identity and liberation that resonated for centuries.
So if we look back at the monumental journey we've just explored, from Abyssinian prince to captive to tortured slave to the prophet's gatekeeper, to the man who defined the spiritual soundscape of faith, and finally to an international intelligence officer and an ancestor claimed by King. What is the core, unshakable takeaway for us today?
What this teaches us is that the early movement was not built on the existing structures of power or privilege. It was built on a radical, uncompromising premise that piety and character outweighed lineage, wealth, or race. And this message was implemented daily, from Abu Bakr paying a king's ransom for his freedom to the divine command of Surah Al-Kahf, and ultimately to Caliph Umar's choice to trust Bilal, the former slave, over the haughty nobility, even for executive orders like removing Khalid bin Walid. Bilal's life provided the early community with a tangible, enduring example of what true, non-racial equality looked like, a standard that remains binding today.
Absolutely. Bilal used his voice both literally and figuratively to elevate a cause and shatter an oppressive social structure. We saw how a single committed word, ahad, saved him from death, and how his high and beautiful voice brought a city to its knees in grief and devotion. The physical reality of his suffering was transcended by the spiritual authority of his sound. So we have to ask ourselves, what power does a single committed voice backed by unwavering conviction hold in shaping the world and overturning established injustice today? That's something worth carrying with you long after this deep dive ends.
You know, when you look at the modern world, it's just impossible not to be completely awestruck by human ambition. We're talking about these incredible feats of engineering, things that just a generation ago would have seemed like pure science fiction.
Absolutely.
You've got Dubai's Burj Khalifa, just stabbing the sky, Japan's massive underwater tunnels, China's high-speed rail.
Right, or even the skylines of New York and Paris. They just completely redefine what a city can be.
These projects are testaments to skill, to technology, to just unimaginable financial investment.
For sure. It feels like for the first time in history, we can honestly say that humans can build pretty much anything we can dream up.
But here's the thing that all these sources really force you to confront. With that great achievement comes an equally great and often fatal risk. These masterpieces are so complex that they're also, incredibly vulnerable.
Exactly. A single wrong calculation, a weak foundation, even just a moment of carelessness with safety rules.
Just one tiny error.
And that tiny error can destroy a billion-dollar project, or, far worse, take hundreds of lives. The most painful lessons the engineering industry has learned really just reinforce that one. When you're dealing with this kind of scale, there's no such thing as a small mistake.
Every choice is magnified. And that's our mission for this deep dive. We're looking into some of the most shocking, tragic, and, frankly, expensive construction mistakes from around the globe.
And we're not just looking for the failures themselves.
Right. We want to pull out the crucial lessons that were learned from, the lessons that literally forced the entire industry to change how it works.
Okay, so where do we start?
Let's start with a failure that wasn't about physics at all. It was a failure of, basic coordination.
Oh, this one is fascinating. The first major error we're looking at had nothing to do with gravity or steel strength. It was all about communication.
Or the complete lack of it.
Right. Especially when you get politics and ego involved.
You're talking about the famous Bridge to Nowhere, China's Nulo River Bridge.
That's the one.
I mean, if you look at the structure, it's monumental. It looks incredible. It's robust. It cost billions of yuan.
And it was built fast, ahead of schedule. Everything looked perfect on the Chinese side of the river.
The idea was to use this bridge to really boost trade, right? To connect directly across the river to North Korea.
Exactly. But the oversight, and this is what turned billions of yuan into a punchline, was that the planners were totally focused on their end of the deal. They just assumed the other side would do their part.
I just find that so hard to believe. Was it really just incompetence? Or did, political pressure force them to just keep building, hoping the other side would eventually catch up?
The sources really point to the second one. It seems like even when their own internal reports were showing zero progress on the North Korean side.
They just kept going.
The momentum was too great, maybe the sunk cost fallacy. But the key is North Korea never built any road, any customs building, any connecting structure at all.
So the finished bridge just stops. After a few hundred meters, it just ends, leading straight into what?
Dense jungle, marshland, total silence. The visual is just staggering.
It's kind of sad, really.
It is. It stands today as this huge symbol. It proves that for these massive projects, you need planning, and maybe most of all, you need mutual coordination. You need political honesty.
It's not just about having the money and the tech.
Not at all. It's about making sure the other person is actually going to show up to the party.
So if that bridge taught us we need to coordinate with our neighbors, the next case shows we have to coordinate with the planet itself.
A good way to put it.
We're moving from political failure to what happens when you just fail to calculate the power of nature. This brings us to Russia's Grand Bridge. This was a sleek, modern piece of engineering, right?
Oh, absolutely modern in its design. But the engineers made a fundamental error. They failed to correctly calculate the pressure and, more to the point, the dynamic speed of the wind in that area.
They treated the wind like a constant push.
Exactly, like a static force instead of what it really is. A fluid oscillating energy that interacts with the structure.
That feels like engineering 101. How could they miss that?
It should be, but they missed the specifics of that location. That part of Russia gets not just high winds, but these sustained rapid gusts for like 8 months of the year.
And the bridge was too rigid.
Far too rigid. It didn't have the flexibility or internal damping it needed to handle that predictable seasonal pressure.
So when the wind hit, it didn't absorb the energy.
It acted like a sail. Exactly. When a strong gust hit, it would create something engineers call aeroelastic flutter.
Which means?
Basically, the wind's vibration syncs up with the bridge's own natural movement, and it just amplifies the swing.
That sounds terrifying.
It was. People below would just watch this massive bridge swing dramatically from side to side. Its reflection in the river would be shaking so violently, it genuinely looked like the whole thing was about to just collapse into the water.
Wow. So how did they fix it? What did the postmortem find?
They had to retrofit the entire design. They went back and installed these huge, heavy steel cables and sophisticated dampers, giant shock absorbers.
To give it strength and flexibility.
Both. But here's the key takeaway for you. This case is still taught in engineering classes all over the world. It's a brutal warning. You cannot ignore local weather conditions, temperature, humidity. Nature will always win if you don't respect it.
That leads us perfectly into the most fundamental failure of all, doesn't it? The foundation.
Right. If you can't trust the ground you're building on.
The rest is just an expensive house of cards. We have two very different examples here. One is famous for surviving its mistake, and the other is infamous for its catastrophic collapse. Let's start with the beautiful one, the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
The irony there is just so rich. The tower is world famous because of its mistake, not for its intended beauty as a perfectly straight bell tower.
And it all comes down to the ground.
Yep. When they laid the foundation almost 850 years ago, they just didn't understand the soil. It was soft, marshy, river-deposited clay.
They just didn't dig deep enough for that kind of ground.
Not even close. The foundation was only 3 meters deep for a building that was supposed to be huge. The weight of the marble was just way too much for that soil.
And it started sinking almost right away.
As soon as they started the second story, it began sinking on the south side. It forced them to stop work multiple times over decades.
So the whole history of that tower is just engineers trying to fix a mistake that was already in motion.
Desperately trying. They built one side taller than the other. They used different materials, but the lean just got worse and worse over the century. It's a perfect example of what happens when your design completely ignores the geology.
And even though modern tech has stabilized it now, saving it for tourists,
the lean is still there.
it's a beautiful mistake, but it's still a dangerous structural failure at its heart.
Exactly. It's this living example that even if an error becomes a kind of beauty, it's still a ticking clock of structural compromise. It's the most famous foundation failure that didn't immediately kill anyone.
Which gives us the context for our next, much darker story. Let's contrast that slow-motion failure with the immediate catastrophic collapse of the Sampoon department store in South Korea, 1995.
This one is just heartbreaking.
Because it was modern and completely avoidable.
Completely. The building looked strong. It was a major store in a busy area, but it was suffering from this lethal combination of weaknesses that came from, well, owner greed and corruption, not just bad math.
Walk us through what went wrong.
Okay, so first, yes, the foundation was weak. Poor quality concrete, badly installed rebar, but the real crime was what they did mid-construction.
It wasn't originally designed to be a department store, was it?
No, it was designed as a 4-story residential building. The owner decided to change it into a massive department store, which carries a much heavier load, and then he illegally added a 5th floor.
An entire extra floor, completely unplanned for.
It gets worse. When they added that floor, they also changed the columns. The original support columns were designed to be 80 centimeters thick, but to make more room for escalators and retail space, the owners ordered them to be cut down illegally to just 60 centimeters. They carved away 20% of the building's support structure just for convenience.
It chose retail space over structural integrity.
And then came the final straw. They had these huge, heavy air conditioning units on the roof. They were too loud for the restaurants on that illegal 5th floor. Instead of using a crane to move them, which was expensive,
What did they do?
they just had workers cut through the already weakened roof supports and roll the massive units across the building to the other side.
That is just unbelievable. So when it finally collapsed, it wasn't a slow lean like Pisa.
No. For weeks, there were loud cracking noises, huge signs of failure. The management ignored them all. They wouldn't even shut the store down on the day of the collapse.
Oh, I'm dying.
The whole tower just pancaked to collapse straight down in a matter of minutes. Over 500 people died. Thousands were injured. It just ruthlessly proved that corruption and ignoring the fundamentals will always lead to tragedy.
A chilling story. Okay, our final theme shifts a bit. It's not about the earth beneath us, but about overlooked human actions, negligence in calculations, and just routine maintenance.
This is where a skipped piece of paperwork or a missed inspection causes an instant disaster.
And the most tragic example has to be the Hyatt Regency Hotel walkway's collapse. USA, 1981. It was such an iconic disaster because of how sudden it was.
Right. There was a big party going on. People were on these elevated walkways watching the crowd below, and then catastrophe.
So what was the error? The design itself was flawed?
The initial design was already pushing the limits, but the fatal error came from a change made on the construction site. The original plan called for these long, continuous hanger rods to support both the second and fourth floor walkways from the ceiling.
One rod going through both.
Yes, which distributed the load properly. But the fabrication shop, to make it easier to build, changed it. Instead of one long rod, they used two shorter offset rods.
And how do they connect?
They connected to the same ceiling beam with a single bolt. And that single bolt now had to hold the weight of the bottom walkway and the top walkway. It effectively doubled the stress on that one critical connection.
So they changed the physical reality of the connection, but they didn't rerun the math for the new, weaker design.
Exactly. The change was made to simplify construction, but the safety verification was either never done or was just completely botched. When the weight of the crowd on the walkways increased, that one weak connection point just failed instantly. The fourth floor walkway crashed down onto the second floor one.
Killing 114 people. It's one of the worst engineering disasters in American history because it all came down to a failure of process.
A brutal lesson. It forced regulators to require much stricter independent reviews of any changes made during construction, no matter how small they might seem to the workers on site.
A failure of calculation. But what about just simple routine maintenance? Forgetting a checklist item.
That brings us to the Taiwan crane accident. This is a textbook case, a failure of daily oversight, not a flaw in the initial design.
You've got this massive crane lifting a 16-ton load high over a work site.
And the specific act of negligence. Someone forgot to check the hydraulic oil level during the daily inspection.
Such a small oversight. What was the chain reaction?
It was dramatic. The oil level was so low, the machine was working under immense internal friction and heat. That led to a fire in the hydraulic system. The stress and lack of lubrication caused the middle section of the crane to just buckle and break.
Dropping the entire 16-ton load.
Right onto the worksite. Huge financial loss and severe injuries to several workers.
The lesson there is just so clear.
It's invaluable. Daily inspections, routine maintenance. It is non-negotiable for safety. Skip the oil check and you risk 16 tons falling from the sky. The person who does that basic check is just as critical as the chief engineer.
That really brings our whole deep dive together, doesn't it? Whether it's a massive bridge or a tiny bolt, the conclusion from all these cases is the same.
Construction negligence is never a minor thing.
A small oversight by an engineer, a slight failing by a worker, a misplaced priority from management, it can all lead to instant ruin.
And if you look at the big picture, all these disasters point to 4 essential pillars for any successful construction. We've seen what happens when you neglect any of them.
Strong foundation.
That's Pisa and Sampung.
Accurate calculation.
Hyatt Regency.
Quality materials and design.
Russia's Grand Bridge.
And strict adherence to safety rules and coordination.
The Taiwan Crane and the Nulo River Bridge.
It makes you look at every giant building, every bridge, and just appreciate the constant, painful vigilance that's required to keep them standing.
Which I think brings up the ultimate question for anyone involved in these kinds of projects. Considering that all these monumental disasters at the times, checking the oil, making sure a column was rerunning the math after a tiny, what is the cost of, and how do you ensure those 4 pillars at every single level of each project? From the very first meeting down to the integrity of everything we build depends on. Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is, well, it's highly specific, incredibly practical, and frankly, I think it's quite fascinating. We aren't studying complex theory. Instead, we are dissecting this huge collection of everyday English conversation transcripts. It's like a functional playbook for, everything from securing a hotel room to navigating a fender bender.
Exactly. This deep dive is a bit unusual because the source material really is the linguistic architecture of daily life. We're moving past just vocabulary lists, and we're focusing intently on structure. We're identifying those essential language patterns, the structural necessities you need for, rapid comprehension and immediate effective use.
Right, in those high-stakes transactional moments in social negotiations.
Okay.
The knowledge buried in these scripts is basically a blueprint for seamless communication. We've got the precise phrases you need for booking travel, passing security checks, handling job applications.
Even dealing with traffic fines, financial advice, and managing complicated family dynamics.
So if you need to speak English just to conduct the business of living, the patterns we uncover today are, I think, your shortcut to.
Let's start where precision is just non-negotiable and the stakes are often high. Formal interaction. We're talking about transactional language here. Travel, professional settings. In these environments, you really succeed by minimizing ambiguity.
That's so perfectly illustrated by the details required when booking that room at the Euphoria Hotel. We don't just see a general request. It's like a masterclass in providing what you call explicit constraints.
Yes. Note how the request is built entirely on verifiable numbers and explicit needs. The booking has to span July 15th to the 19th.
Specific dates.
Right. And the traveler is a family of 4, so they need 2 double beds. And the price expectation is locked in at $100 a night. These are hard parameters.
And then, only once those logistics are met, the request shifts a little to a preference, but it's still so polite while being civic. I'd appreciate it if you could give me a room with a view over the...
And the hotel staff confirms it with equal precision. They say, a room on the 3rd floor with a splendid view. The whole transaction just works because both parties are using this precise numerical language.
Then you move to the check-in counter, and the language shifts again, this time to what you could call mandatory procedural language.
The staff has to establish identity and enforce procedure. The guest, Victor Kim, has to present his identification, specifically his passport, and then fill out a form.
And the final key detail is that location delivery. The staff doesn't just say, your room is 403. They provide a really clear, linear, procedural command sequence.
Take the elevator right behind you to the 4th floor and take it right when you get out.
Exactly. That embedded directional command just makes the action immediate. It reduces follow-up questions.
And if travel demands precision, airport security demands an even more rigid chain of commands. I mean, this is pure functional language, dictating sequence.
It really is a formula. The instructions move so fast from general to specific. First, put your bags flat on the conveyor belt. Second, use the bins for small objects. And they specify removing your coat, belt, and shoes. You have to put them in a bin.
And critically, the technological requirements, you have to address those. Take your laptop out of the bag and place it in a bin. And then the liquid rule confirmation. Do you have any liquids in your bag? No, I don't. The language here is focused entirely on action verbs and, well, direct compliance.
What's fascinating is that the transcripts even include the language for when things go wrong, the troubleshooting sequence.
Yeah, that part's great.
When the scanner goes off, the staff instantly shifts to the most common cause. They ask, do you have any coins in your pocket? It's that immediate specific query that just solves the delay.
And that ability to pivot to a specific solution is a hallmark of effective transactional dialogue. Let's pivot now ourselves to professional settings where structure is just everything. When you're applying for a job, successful communication relies on following these structural protocols.
Take the email from Stella Martin applying for the social media marketing assistant position. The first correction the source material provides is all about the subject line. It's not about style, it's about clear organization.
The source material lays out a very clear professional subject line protocol. It must include the applicant's name and the job title. If you omit one, you just risk being filtered out or ignored.
So it has to be Stella Martin's social media marketing assistant position, not just job applicant. And we see that same demand for formal structure in the closing, right? It requires a polite phrase like best regards or sincerely.
These small details show professionalism, and the language has to reflect that standard of formality.
A similar clarity of purpose is required when you're leaving a message for a client. Andy Chadwell, calling from Absy Company, isn't just checking in. He has to use what we're calling clear objective framing to state why he's calling.
He's following up because Mr. Tom was interested in learning more about the products my company offers.
That one sentence defines the call's purpose. It makes the callback so much more likely. And then he reinforces the necessary data point, his contact details, phone 120-9876. Precision really is the key.
So now that we've dissected that rigid, formal structure for things like corporate emails and check-ins, let's see what happens to the language when precision is still needed, but emotion and negotiation start to enter the equation.
Talking money and managing personal boundaries.
Exactly.
This shifts the linguistic challenge completely. You're moving from just confirmation to consultation. Let's start with finance. The core problem highlighted in the source material is so relatable. Just being broke and feeling like you don't know where my money went.
And the immediate advice is pragmatic. It moves you from confusion to action by suggesting a tangible tool. The specific solution suggested is an app, Money Lover, and it assures the person that it's very user-friendly.
But the real insight, I think, is the mindset shift language around saving. The key savings tip elevates the discussion from just budgeting to mandatory self-payment.
I always transfer a portion of my salary to a savings account as soon as I get paid.
It reframes saving as a fixed expense, not some discretionary option.
That proactive approach contrasts really nicely with the initial reluctance we see in the investment dialogue. I can't understand the number on the board. While the advice is to talk to a stockbroker, the shared belief really emphasizes getting knowledge before you take on risk.
The consensus reveals this fundamental investment mantra. Before investing, you should improve your knowledge first and start with a little money.
Right. It's the linguistic framework for managing your risk appetite. The dialogue avoids the pitfall of taking too many risks by stressing that gradual, informed end.
Let's turn to workplace boundaries, where language literally determines success or failure in requests for, accommodation. We're analyzing boundary negotiation language when asking to leave work early.
And we have a perfect contrast here.
We do. The successful excuse is urgent and it's familial. My son got sick and I have to pick him up from school. The colleague immediately grants permission because they recognize the non-negotiable priority. They just say, "Of course, have you told Linda yet?"
The unsuccessful request, though, that exposes the line. When the employee tries to leave early for the second time in 2 days, claiming tickets to the basketball game,
the colleague just shuts it down with a firm "no way."
instantly. The language reveals that discretionary requests have to be limited, or maybe non-existent, when professional obligations are in conflict.
We also see the language used when addressing persistent lateness. The employee gives a valid reason. "My kid just changed school, so it takes more time to drive him to school." But the manager delivers this very severe warning, and they shift the focus away from just personal fault.
The manager uses this powerful team impact language. They clarify that being late affects your work, your colleagues' work, and the company environment. It's a subtle but critical shift. It moves the issue from a personal failing to a breach of collective responsibility, which is much harder to argue against.
Finally, let's look at the conflict resolution scripts in the family values dialogue. The family's core operating principle is stated right at the start. Everyone in our family will listen to each other.
And the scenario involves crying because I said some bad things to Alice. The prescribed solution isn't avoidance. It's a strict two-part process. The mother advises, say you're sorry to her. Explain your thoughts. It's an apology plus context requirement. It teaches ownership and communication at the same time.
So now we shift focus entirely. We're going in a high-stakes scenario centered on problem-solving, fixing mistakes, or adhering to mandatory legal requirements. This is the language of incidents and appointments.
Let's begin with the legal and traffic transactions. Across both dialogues about paying a parking ticket fine, we see an absolute requirement that just stops the process cold if it's missed. This is mandatory verification language.
It's the need for identification. The clerk states you'll need it to pay your fine because they have to verify your identity before payment. You can have the money, you can have the ticket, but without that ID, the transaction just cannot proceed. The language is unyielding.
Yeah, totally. And if you are enrolled in traffic school for a driver's education course, the language is entirely focused on specific time management. It helps you plan for compliance.
Right. You have to first schedule an appointment to sign paperwork. The course itself is a total 6-hour course, and the dialogue explicitly details how this has to be managed, studying 2 hours a day for 3 days. That level of detail is necessary to avoid, future fines or license.
Now for the highly stressful traffic incident. The transcripts give us 2 contrasting liability acceptance scripts right after a collision.
Dialogue 1 is immediate acceptance. "That was my fault. I'm really sorry." And that de-escalates the situation instantly.
But dialogue 2 starts with denial, or at least minimization. The damage seems too extensive for that. I really don't think this was me. The driver even suggests the other person's bumper was already in that condition.
But regardless of whether the language is apologetic or defensive, the functional outcome is the same. Exchanging phone numbers and insurance information with an assurance that everything will be taken care of.
The language may differ, but the procedural necessities are constant.
Following up on that, we see a crucial conversation with an insurance company about a premium increase. The caller has to use precise questioning language. They ask if there have been changes to terms or rates to force the company to give an answer.
And the company admits the oversight using what I'd call service recovery language. I apologize for the oversight. We will ensure you are notified in advance next time. That language isn't just an apology, it's a future commitment. It's aimed at retaining the customer.
Moving on to appointments, we see this fascinating example of the salon mix-up, where a customer booked nail care but actually wanted a massage. The language required here is effective de-escalation.
The receptionist's immediate response has to own the mistake. "I'm so sorry for the inconvenience. I think the receptionist made a mistake."
No.
but the customer contributes to the recovery with high empathy.
No worries, I'm not rushed at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That mutual language of understanding just speeds up the fix and preserves the relationship.
And finally, we have that quick reminder dialogue about receiving mail. The head office calls to remind someone to check an important email from HR, which is essential because the specific issue was that the email went into the spam folder.
So the dialogue focuses on immediate, time-bound action. The call confirms the need to fix the delivery issue and demands a reply to the email by tomorrow. Again, the language is structured around urgent compliance.
What stands out to me here is that these transcripts aren't just random collections of words, they're precise structural framework. Whether you need to negotiate a boundary, enforce a procedure, or execute a financial plan, these dialogues offer the specific language patterns you need for functional success.
Absolutely. This deep dive was a structural analysis of functional language. We learned that communication succeeds when it minimizes ambiguity, whether that means using the professional subject line protocol in an email or using team impact language to address lateness.
And we also saw the value of those unexpected specific details, like the mandatory verification language required before you can pay a fine, or the specific breakdown that traffic school is 6 hours spread over 3 days. These specific phrases become internalized.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner? The source material ends with a really fundamental piece of advice. Try to think and speak in English every time. Don't just save these complex phrases for a test or a meeting.
Challenge yourself to apply the structural language. Use the exact language for asking for verification or giving or executing that two-part conflict. Use them as to start thinking how quickly compliance.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we aren't just consulting history. We are looking at the deepest structure of an ancient apocalyptic worldview that, well, it fundamentally shaped religious thought for millennia.
It really did.
We're diving into the prophetic visions and journeys contained within the Book of Enoch, and we're drawing from a single exhaustive source that details celestial mechanics, divine judgment, and, crucially, the origin of evil.
This material is truly extraordinary. It's not a simple moral treatise,
Not at all.
The text operates as a comprehensive, highly structured roadmap. It's a complete cosmology designed explicitly for those seeking knowledge of hidden origins and the strict, fixed chronology of divine decree leading right up to the final judgment.
So if you want the hidden secrets of the universe and history, this is where the source material guides us.
Exactly.
Our mission today, then, is to follow Enoch, the scribe of righteousness, from the moment a cosmic crisis breaks out on Earth to his transportation to the very highest seat of power.
We need to understand the full implications of that first major rebellion.
Right, and how its consequences just echo through history, all the way to the end of time.
And to achieve that, to really get that understanding, we have to start at the very beginning of the collapse. The dramatic, unprecedented transgression committed by a specific group of fallen angels known in the text as the Watchers.
Okay, let's unpack this pivotal moment. The text treats it as the defining historical pivot point before the flood. So where and when did this rebellion even begin?
The source material is remarkably precise on this. It places the descent of 200 angels or watchers in the days of Jared, and they land upon Mount Hermon.
And the location isn't just a random spot on a map.
Not at all. It's a statement of commitment. The mountain is named Hermon because that's where they collectively swore a mutual oath. They bound themselves by mutual imprecations, a curse, essentially, to follow through on their forbidden plan.
And their motivation, as the text explicitly states, it was utterly physical. A complete violation of cosmic law. They lusted after the beautiful daughters of men, took wives, and decided to beget children.
It was a massive conspiracy, and it was driven entirely by desire. The leader, a figure named Semyaza, he actually feared the immense penalty this violation would incur.
He had second thoughts.
He did. He was worried he'd be the only one to bear the punishment for this great sin. But because they all swore together, they sealed a shared, inescapable fate. It's a powerful portrayal of collective sin overriding individual hesitation.
And that collective failure produced immediate catastrophic results. The offspring. They weren't merely large humans, were they? They were something monstrous.
Precisely. The text refers to these children as giants, describing them as bastards or reprobates, and their size. We need to put this in context. The source details their height reaching an almost unimaginable 3,000 ells.
And L's are usually interpreted as cubits, right?
Generally, yes, which would mean these beings were miles high. This extreme scale, it's there to emphasize that they were cosmic errors. They are aberrations whose very existence violated the natural order of creation. This goes far beyond just being tall humanoids.
And the scale of their sin seems to grow proportionally to their size. How did their presence immediately start to corrupt the earth?
Well, they were unsustainable. It's as simple as that. They consumed everything men acquired, leaving absolutely nothing.
So a famine.
A famine caused by these monstrous appetites. And once the food ran out, their monstrous nature took over completely. The giants turned and devoured humanity itself. But the depravity didn't stop at cannibalism. The source details how they sinned against every living creature, birds, beasts, reptiles, and fish, and they drank blood.
So this was total systemic ecological breakdown.
So severe that the text says the earth itself laid accusation against the lawless ones, and the cry of tortured mankind went straight up to the gates of heaven.
So the giants were the physical manifestation of the corruption, but the Watchers themselves introduced the knowledge, the forbidden secrets, that allowed humanity to become self-destructive.
Exactly.
What were the specific teachings that turned society toward, as the text says, godlessness?
This is where the source provides its most striking theological critique of technology and culture. A watcher named Azazel is singled out as the primary source of unrighteousness.
Okay, what was in his portfolio of sin?
He taught men to make the instruments of war, swords, knives, shields, and breastplates. He revealed the metals of the earth and the skill of working them.
Wait a minute, so the introduction of weaponry, the ability to kill on a massive scale, is presented as a direct angelic sin.
It is.
But the source links this destructive knowledge directly with luxury goods, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And this is the fascinating detail that's often overlooked. Azazel also taught the creation of ornaments, antimony, which is, cosmetics and makeup and coloring tinctures.
So making weapons and making makeup come from the same corrupt source.
The text posits that the ability to adorn oneself and the ability to wage war are two sides of the same corrupt coin. They both lead inevitably to godlessness and moral degradation. The focus shifts from the pure, simple life intended for humanity to a culture obsessed with outward appearance and internal violence.
If Azazel taught war and vanity, what did the other leaders contribute?
Semyaza, the leader of the descent, he focused on enchantments and the cutting of roots, a kind of forbidden magical botany.
And the others?
They provided highly specialized technical knowledge. Barakijal taught astrology, Kokabeel, constellations, Ezekiel, knowledge of clouds, so meteorology, Arakel, signs of the earth, Shamziel, signs of the sun, and Serial, the course of the moon. This was cosmic, eternal knowledge meant only for the heavens, now just recklessly dumped into the mortal realm.
And the text offers an even deeper level of culpability later on in chapter 69, providing a few more shocking figures.
It does. It introduces a figure named Gadriel. He is said to have shown the blows of death, weapons, and, most damningly, is accused of leading astray Eve.
So it's connecting this transgression directly back to the original sin in Eden.
Directly. It frames it all as one continuous corrupting influence. And then there is Penemu.
Penemu. We absolutely need to spend time on this because it sets up our final thought for the listener. What did Penemu teach that was so destructive?
Penemu taught ink and paper, writing.
Writing. How is writing a sin?
The source treats this as a tremendous source of sin and perishing. The theological reasoning here is profound. Men were created pure and righteous, exactly like the angels. They were intended to exist in a state of immediate, unwritten truth.
So by introducing writing,
by introducing the fixity of knowledge, the ability to record, preserve, and thereby alter eternal knowledge on transient paper, Penemu fundamentally corrupted the purity of the human soul and brought death. The invention of the ledger, the scroll, the contract, according to this text, that is what ushered in our mortality.
That detail it's utterly unique and crucial to understanding this text's view of knowledge. Amidst all this cosmic chaos and the teaching of forbidden arts, where was Enoch, the righteous scribe?
Enoch was initially hidden, but he was active with the Watchers. Once the crisis reached its zenith and the earth was screaming for justice, he was commissioned by the Holy Ones.
To do what?
To go directly to the Watchers and declare their great destruction.
He delivered their death sentence.
He did. And the Watchers' reaction was immediate and terrified. They were filled with fear and trembling, struck by a shame so intense they could no longer even look up to heaven. They knew their fate was.
So what did they do?
Their last desperate act was to beg Enoch, the righteous man they had previously ignored, to write a petition to the Lord of Heaven, asking for forgiveness. They hoped the voice of a righteous human might succeed where their own silent shame had failed.
Which sets the stage for the dramatic moment of judgment.
Exactly. The scene shifts immediately to the heavenly court, and the Watcher's desperate written plea for intercession arrives at the same time as the powerful suit presented by the righteous archangels, Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel.
These archangels acted as heavenly prosecutors then. They looked down upon the corruption and presented the case of the tormented souls of men to the Most High, the Lord of Lords.
They did.
What was their primary accusation?
They systematically indicted the leadership. They accused Azazel of revealing the eternal secrets which were preserved in heaven and teaching all unrighteousness. And they accused Semyaza of leading the collective effort to defile themselves with women. Their summary was clear. The entire earth was filled with bloodshed and unrighteousness, all due to the actions of the Watcher.
And the divine response was immediate, specific. It was delivered through a series of commands to these same archangels. It's like a highly organized, almost bureaucratic form of cosmic justice.
It was a segmented judgment, yes. It started with the protection of the righteous remnant. Uriel was commanded to go to Noah, son of Lamech, to reveal the approaching end, the great deluge, and to instruct him precisely on how he and his seed might escape.
The first step is saving the innocent.
It was the mechanism for preserving humanity from the crisis the Watchers had caused.
And for Azazel, the punishment was uniquely severe and binding.
Raphael received that charge. To deal with Azazel, the instigator of cultural and military corruption, he was commanded to bind Azazel hand and foot and cast him into the profound darkness of the desert in a place called Dead.
And not just leave him there.
No. To ensure his immediate suffering and long-term imprisonment, rough, jagged rocks were placed upon him. His face was covered so he could see no light, and he was reserved in that state until the great judgment when he would finally be cast into the fire. It's an immediate, eternal solitude.
Semyaza and his 200 companions received a different but equally certain sentence.
That responsibility fell to Michael. He was commanded to bind Semyaza and his associates for a period of 70 generations in the valleys of the earth.
70 generations. That's a very specific amount of time.
It is. This period is a set time until the day of their full consummation, at which point they will be led off to the abyss of fire and torment forever. It's important to note the contrast. 70 generations for them versus the 10,000 years for the stars we'll discuss later. Their punishment is measured in human history, linking their sin directly to the human timeline.
And what about the giants? The immediate fruits of their sin?
Gabriel was tasked with ensuring their destruction. He was commanded to incite the bastards and reprobates, the giants, to battle against each other, ensuring they destroyed one another.
A self-consuming evil.
Exactly. And the command specifically crushes their vain hope of living for 500 years, guaranteeing they would not endure long days on earth.
And here's where the text offers a crucial piece of theology. It's the origin story for subsequent evil. Once the giants die, what happens to their nature?
This is one of the most vital insights from the Book of Enoch. The giants were produced from the union of heavenly spirits, the washers, and earthly flesh, the women. When they died, their spirits proceed forth from their bodies, but they retain the violent, destructive nature of their hybrid origin.
And these spirits are identified as what?
The evil spirits on earth. They are fundamentally stuck, not allowed back in heaven, and no longer attached to.
And their unique state makes them uniquely malicious, right?
Absolutely. Because they came from both spirit and flesh, they are permitted to remain on earth as invisible tormentors. They afflict, oppress, destroy, attack, hunger, thirst, and cause offenses. They rise up against mankind because they proceeded from the flesh of mankind.
So they're driven by the unsatisfied physical hungers of their dead hybrid forms.
Yes. This source provides a definitive, theologically structured explanation for demons. They are the restless shadows of the original cosmic error.
That is a devastating theological blueprint. As these judgments are being decreed, Enoch himself, having delivered the Watcher's plea, is instantly carried away into the highest court. How does the text describe this transformation, this ascension?
The transition is abrupt and sublime. Enoch is carried up by the winds and the clouds. He passes a massive wall built of crystals surrounded by intense flaming fire. He enters a sequence of houses. First, a house of crystal, both hot and cold, and then the second, even larger house, built entirely of crystal and blazing fire.
This sounds like an overwhelming place for a human scribe.
It's a throne room of unimaginable power. He sees the lofty throne, which appears like crystal, with wheels like the shining sun and streams of flaming fire beneath it.
And on the throne.
Seated there is the great glory, described as having raiment that shone brighter than the sun and was whiter than any snow. Before him stood the multitude of angels, 10,000 times 10,000. No mortal could behold his face.
And it is at this awe-inspiring moment that the Lord addresses Enoch directly about the Watcher's plea for mercy.
The response is final and decisive. The Lord affirms Enoch's status. Fear not, Enoch, thou righteous man and scribe of righteousness. You should intercede for men, not men for you.
So the petition is denied.
Categorically denied throughout all the days of eternity. And to add to their torment, they are forced to witness the total destruction of their beloved sons, the giants, before they themselves face their ultimate fate.
The narrative then closes this section by detailing the bureaucratic structure of heaven, preparing for the final, ultimate judgment.
Yes, the source gives us the list and the charges of the 7 archangels. Michael, Raphael, who's over the spirits of men, Gabriel over paradise and the serpents, Uriel over the world and Sheol, and a few others. And the angels of punishment are shown holding scourges and chains of iron and bronze, specifically prepared for the hosts of Azazel.
It's sending a clear message to the listener. The judgment is not chaotic. It's prepared, measured, and absolute.
And the final promise of justice is that hell, or Sheol, will surrender everything it has received, and the hosts of Azazel, once their sentence is up, will be cast into the abyss of complete condemnation.
Having settled the issue of the Watchers and received the divine decree, Enoch is then transformed into a kind of cosmic tourist. He's guided by the archangels through the hidden geography of the universe. This feels less like prophecy and more like a mandated tour of cosmic infrastructure.
That's exactly right. Uriel, his primary guide, leads him through the deepest elemental and astronomical structure. Enoch sees the treasuries of the stars and thunder, places of flaming fire and darkness, a river of fire flowing into the great western sea, and even the physical cornerstone of the earth that serves as the anchor for creation.
He also receives detailed meteorological lessons, the mechanism controlling the Earth's climate.
He sees the 12 portals of the winds. The source is very clear. 4 of these portals bring blessing and prosperity rain, fruitfulness, while the remaining 8 bring destruction.
What kind of destruction?
Drought, heat, locusts, snow, frost, and cold. Even something as commonplace as a windstorm is revealed to be highly regulated by divine law channeled through these specific gates.
And this law applies universally. Enoch sees not just fallen angels imprisoned, but fallen stars and other heavenly bodies as well.
This is a critical point that reinforces the rigidity of cosmic law. Enoch is shown 7 great burning mountains, which serve as a prison for stars and the hosts of heaven who fail to observe their commandments. They transgressed in the beginning of their rising by not coming forth at their appointed times.
They relate.
Essentially, yes, they were late. And for that, they are bound there for a massive period, 10,000 years. This implies that failing a cosmic temporal law is a monumental sin.
If the stars received 10,000 years, and the Watchers were bound for 70 generations, that suggests a profound difference in the nature of their transgressions, doesn't it?
It does. The 10,000 years for the stars emphasizes the severity of disrupting the cosmic clockwork, this universal objective law. The 70 generations for the Watchers emphasizes the severity of disrupting the moral and biological order of mankind, tying their fate more directly to human history. Both judgments are absolute, but they're measured differently based on the damage done.
Enoch also sees the dedicated prison for the Watchers' spirits, linking back to the previous section.
Uriel identifies the place where the angels who sinned with women stand, judged and awaiting the final day, and the consequence continues. Their many-formed spirits are still defiling mankind, leading them astray into sacrificing to demons as gods. The human women they corrupted are also judged. They become sirens. They all remain standing in judgment until the great day.
The journey then takes a somber turn into the realm of the dead Sheol, where all spirits are held until the ultimate judgment.
He's shown a high mountain in the west containing 4 great hollow places. Raphael explains these are the assembly points for the spirits of all the children of men until the day of judgment. These hollows are a preliminary sorting mechanism, illustrating a kind of interim justice.
How are the spirits separated within these hollows?
The separation is based on their earthly life and death. One division holds the spirits of the righteous, and it's marked by a bright spring of water. Another holds sinners who died without judgment, and they're reserved in great pain.
And there are 2 more.
Yes. A third holds the spirits of the righteous who were slain by sinners, and they are making suit for vengeance concerning their destruction. And finally, the fourth division holds those who are not righteous, but complete in transgression.
What does that mean, complete in transgression?
It seems to mean those whose wickedness was so absolute that though they are companions to other transgressors, their spirits won't even be slain or raised on the great day of judgment. They are simply consumed by the earth, a final absolute oblivion.
He also sees a specific place for those who blasphemed.
Yes, the accursed valley of judgment. It's for those who spoke unseemly words against the Lord and his glory. It's a spectacular place designed for the public humiliation and righteous judgment of the arrogant.
Moving back to terrestrial power, Enoch is shown 7 magnificent mountains made of different metals: iron, copper, silver, gold, soft metal, and lead. What do these materials signify in an apocalyptic context?
These metals symbolize the succession of earthly empires and dominion, often built on violence and wealth. The text explains that these represent the dominion of the elect one's anointed. But the prophetic climax is that on the day the elect one appears, these mountains will become utterly powerless. They'll melt like wax before a fire.
So the message is clear.
It is. All human empires built on military might iron, bronze, and corrupt wealth gold, silver will fail. No amount of worldly power or riches will save anyone during the final judgment.
And as a final note on creation's grand scale, Enoch is introduced to the 2 primordial beasts.
Leviathan and Behemoth. They were created and separated on a single day. Leviathan is the female monster dwelling in the abysses of the ocean, representing the chaotic power of the water. Behemoth is the male, occupying the waste wilderness of Dadain, symbolizing the uncontrollable power of the land.
And their purpose?
They were prepared to demonstrate the greatness of God and will ultimately be served as sustenance to the chosen on the day of vindication.
Having established the infrastructure of judgment and punishment, the focus now pivots. It moves to the future hope and the ultimate dispenser of divine authority.
Yes, the 3 parables detail the mechanisms of final judgment, and they all center on the appearance of the Son of Man.
The source describes an astonishing heavenly council. Enoch sees the head of days, whose head was white like wool, which represents ancient eternal authority. And alongside him, he sees the Son of Man, who had the appearance of a man, but was full of graciousness like one of the holy angels.
And the material stresses the eternal nature of this figure. The Son of Man was chosen and hidden before the creation of the world. His name was even named before the sun, and the signs were...
That establishes his absolute primacy then, his eternal role in the divine plan, transcending any earthly messianic title.
Exact.
So what is his central role in this new righteous order?
He is the embodiment of wisdom, and he reveals all hidden treasures. He acts as a staff to the righteous, the light of the Gentiles, and the hope of the troubled heart. The prophecy is a declaration of universal submission. All who dwell on earth shall fall down and worship before him, praising and blessing the Lord of spirits.
And his authority is wielded most forcefully against the powerful earthly rulers. How does he judge the kings and the mighty who relied on their own strength?
The Son of Man shall forcefully raise the kings and the mighty from their seats and break the teeth of the sinners. Their sin wasn't just oppression, it was a profound denial of cosmic source.
What do you mean by that?
They did not extol and praise the Lord, nor did they acknowledge whence their earthly kingdom was bestowed upon them. They had persecuted the houses of the congregations and even judged the stars of heaven. That is, they tried to control fate itself.
They trusted explicitly in riches and handmade gods. What is their eternal consequence?
Their dwelling shall be eternal darkness, their bed shall be worms, and they shall have no hope of rising. They are consigned to be destroyed into nothingness, burning as straw in the fire. The message is that earthly sovereignty, built on violence and wealth, is entirely meaningless before the eternal authority of the elect one.
But for the righteous who have endured the chaos and oppression, this is the moment of ultimate vindication.
Absolutely. The head of days sits on the throne of glory, and the books of the living are opened. The prayer and the blood of the righteous which ascended from earth are finally heard and acknowledged. And critically, the earth and Sheol will give back everything that has been entrusted to them. The elect one will sit on the throne and choose the righteous.
And the change for the elect is a radical transformation moving beyond mortal existence.
A profound change takes place. Light and glory will abide upon them. They will be clothed with garments of glory, the garments of life, and their life shall be increased in peace and joy forevermore. They will shine not just metaphorically, but literally as the lights of heaven.
And we get that incredible, final, dramatic testimony from the judged kings themselves confessing their failure.
It's the most human moment in this whole apocalyptic section. They implore the Lord for just a little respite from the angel of punishment, admitting their massive error. They confess that their hope was tragically misplaced, trusting only in the scepter of their kingdom and glory.
And their final realization.
Their final devastating realization is, light has vanished from before us, and darkness is our dwelling place forever and ever. It confirms that their punishment is not just pain, but the eternal absence of glory.
Moving away from prophecy and into cosmic mechanism, the book dedicates a substantial portion to the precise, divinely ordained structure of the cosmos.
The law of the luminaries, yes, detailed primarily by Uriel.
This part reads like an astrological almanac written by an archangel. Uriel explained that the sun has 6 portals in the east for rising and 6 in the west for setting, and its circumference is like the heaven, full of heating fire.
Yes, and this leads into the cornerstone of the Enochic system, the mathematically precise 364-day year system. The sun's course is meticulously tracked through these portals, determining the length of day and night.
For example,
it rises for 30 mornings in the 4th portal, making the day longer than the night by 1/9 part. The day amounts to 10 parts and the night to 8.
So the balance is constantly shifting, but with exact measured precision until the equinox, when day and night are equal 9 parts each.
And the accounting ensures the year is exactly 364 days, achieved with perfect justice, never advancing or delaying its position. The crucial element, however, is the 4 intercalary days, which divide the 4 portions of the year, the 4 seasons.
What's the significance of those 4 days?
They are inseparable from their office and the overall reckoning. These 4 days are built into the celestial mechanics as markers, but the text delivers a scathing critique of human failure here.
What's the failure?
It says that men shall be at fault and not recognize them accurately. By ignoring these 4 necessary coordinating days, humanity immediately creates a conflict with the cosmic balance, failing to keep the true 364-day celestial cycle.
So the human adoption of an approximate 360 or 365-day year isn't just a math error, it's a theological failure that symbolizes moral corruption.
Precisely. The prophecy asserts that because of this failure, in the days of sinners, the years shall be shortened, and everything on earth shall alter and not appear in its appointed time. Human failure to observe divine law, even in the calendar, causes temporal misalignment and cosmic corruption.
And the moon's law is equally technical, governing its luminosity based on its relationship to the sun.
The moon's light is stated to be only 1/7 that of the sun, though physically their size is said to be equal. The moon receives its light in defined measure, achieving full light 15 parts on the 14th day. The law of transfer dictates that the moon receives light from the sun when it is exactly opposite. The whole system is a complex, interacting machine of light and shadow maintained by perfect justice.
Enoch's tour also included the management of the raw elements. What did he learn about the chambers of nature?
Michael showed him the immense chambers of the winds, hail, mist, clouds, and rain. He learned that the spirit of the sea is masculine and strong, and it possesses a rain that draws the water back, keeping it confined by the sand, a supernatural explanation for tides and coastal boundaries.
And what about thunder and lightning?
We learned that thunder and lightning, though inseparable, have distinct places of rest, and a specific spirit enforces a pause during the peal, the sound of the thunder suggesting precise, controlled management of explosive power.
And all this knowledge wasn't meant to be kept secret forever. What was Enoch commanded to do with these records?
Enoch is commanded to observe the heavenly tablets where the deeds and laws of all creation and all mankind are written. He is explicitly told to declare all these laws and records to his son Methuselah so that his descendants may preserve these books. The transmission of this knowledge is crucial. It's a celestial mandate to establish a tradition of wisdom.
Moving into the book's high allegory, the narrative shifts to Enoch's personal dreams, starting with a terrifying vision of ultimate collapse.
The first dream is catastrophic. Enoch sees the heaven collapse, fall to the earth, and the entire earth swallowed in a great abyss. Mountains and trees are violently hurled down. This is the vision of the deluge. His grandfather, Mahalalel, confirms it, telling him the vision foretells the utter destruction of all sin on earth and urges Enoch to pray for a remnant.
This vision is immediately followed by the strange, anxious birth of Noah, which happens while Enoch is still present on earth.
It's a moment of profound cosmic anxiety. Noah is born with these remarkable features: white as snow, red as a rose, with hair white as wool, and eyes that literally light up the house like the sun.
And his father, Lamech, is terrified.
He is. He fears the child is not his, but is from the angels, a dreaded connection to the Watcher's sin.
So Lamech sends Methuselah to find Enoch and determine the truth.
Enoch confirms that the birth is genuine, a divine miracle, not a Watcher transgression. He names the child Noah, which means comfort, because he will comfort the earth after the great calamity. Enoch reveals that Noah and his 3 children will be saved during the great deluge, after which the Watchers will be permanently imprisoned, symbolizing the cleansing.
The narrative then shifts into the grand allegorical history of the world,
Yeah.
the animal apocalypse.
This is a symbolic vision spanning history from Adam to the final judgment. It begins with the white bull, who is Adam, and the heifer, who is Eve, and the subsequent black and red bulls, Cain and Abel.
And the Watchers appear in this vision too.
They do. The stars falling from heaven and becoming bulls who cover the cows of the ox and the human women are the Watchers. They birth the colossal unnatural offspring: elephants, camels, and asses, representing the giant.
The history then races forward, using these animal metaphors to cover the lineage of Abraham and the birth of Israel.
The white bull turns into a man, who is Noah, builds the ark, and the water covers the enclosure, which is the deluge. The subsequent generations of mankind are represented as wild boars and wild asses, and Israel is symbolized by sheep. Their persecution by wolves and dogs represents Egypt and other hostile nations. The history continues through the division of the sea and the building of the house, the temple.
Then we reach a crucial point of failed stewardship, the appointment of the 70 shepherds. This feels like a powerful critique of governance.
It is. The Lord cast the sheep to 70 shepherds, human or angelic rulers, assigned to govern and protect them during periods of punishment. The source indicates these shepherds were given specific mandates for destruction.
But they go too far.
They exceed their mandate, slaughtering far more sheep than commanded and delivering them over to lions and tigers, these oppressive rulers. This excess destruction is judged harshly. It highlights the failure of delegated authority and the way punishment is often exploited for malicious ends.
What is the culmination of this immense tragic animal vision?
The Lord of the sheep appears in wrath. The earth cleaves asunder, and all the beasts and birds of prey, the oppressors, are swallowed up. A great sword of vengeance is given to the sheep to slay the remaining enemy beasts. A new, larger, and loftier house is built for them, and dramatically, all the generations, the remaining sheep, are transformed into white bulls.
Symbolizing their ultimate purity and restored angelic status.
Yes.
And running parallel to this allegorical history is the precise numerical blueprint for the end, the prophecy of the 10 weeks.
This timeline locks the entire prophecy into a fixed eschatological structure. The weeks map out history from Enoch's time to eternity. The first week sees Enoch's birth. The second week sees great wickedness and the deluge. The third week elects Abraham as the plant of righteousness. The fifth week sees the house of glory, the temple, built.
And leading toward the end.
The sixth week sees the burning of the house of dominion and the dispersal of the people. The seventh week is defined as an apostate generation, but it closes with the elect righteous receiving sevenfold instruction. The eighth week brings righteous judgment and the building of a house for the great king. The ninth week is when righteous judgment is revealed to the whole world and the world is written down for destruction.
And the final week seals the cosmic transformation.
The 10th week brings the great eternal judgment. The first heaven passes away and a new heaven appears, radiating sevenfold light. After this, there will be many weeks without number forever, where all is goodness and righteousness, and sin is never mentioned again.
The final sections move from this cosmic mapping to direct, severe moral instruction. It uses alternating blessings and curses to guide the faithful.
Yes, Enoch's voice becomes very stern here. He delivers the woe sections targeting specific societal failures. Woe to those who build unrighteousness, acquire wealth through sin, trust in riches, practice reproach, act as lying witnesses, oppress the lowly, and devour the finest wheat.
The source is unwavering in its condemnation.
Their punishment is the furnace of fire. And critically, a woe is delivered to the foolish who are ostentatious, wearing more adornments than a woman, which confirms the book's enduring disdain for the forbidden culture taught by Ezel way back in the first section.
This section offers a truly profound theological statement about moral agency, doesn't it? Distinguishing the Watcher's sin from human sin.
It is the moment the book says, "Sin was not sent upon earth. Man of himself has created it. The Watchers introduced the possibility, but humanity seized it and made it their own. A woe is also delivered to those who worship stones and grave images of gold and silver, for they shall perish instantly, confirming the necessity of worshiping the Lord of spirits alone.
But for the righteous who have endured the woes of the world, there's radical encouragement.
The encouragement is transformative. They shall have lordship over the sinners. Their children shall mount and rise as eagles, and healing shall be their portion. They will be enlightened by a bright light. Their fate shifts from persecution to eternal dominion.
And the comfort offered to those who died in grief or in righteous poverty is particularly moving.
He assures them, "Do not grieve if your soul descended to Sheol in sorrow. The spirits of those who died in righteousness shall live, rejoice, and have their names written before the Great One. Angels remember them for good in heaven, and they shall ultimately shine as the lights of their earthly suffering is instantly reversed by their eternal."
And finally, Enoch addresses the enduring nature of these very books, anticipating their alteration and their preservation.
He reveals the mystery that sinners will inevitably alter and pervert the words of righteousness and write wicked books. However, his own books, the words of Enoch, will be given to the righteous and the wise to become a cause of great joy, wisdom, and uprightness. They are a treasure, ensuring that the faithful who read and preserve them will be recompensed in the end.
The deep dive into the secrets of Enoch's visions is complete. That was an astonishing journey through a cosmic map that is far more detailed and structured than most people realize. If we had to distill this massive source into the core paradigm-shifting nuggets, what rises to the top? I'm thinking first about the scale of the original crime.
Absolutely. The Watcher's initial transgression was defined by its scale, the giants being 3,000 ells high. It signifies them as cosmic errors, not just tall men. This extreme scale justifies the radical measures taken by heaven, setting the stage for the deluge.
For me, the most theologically potent discovery is Azazel's portfolio, that shocking link between the introduction of weaponry and the introduction of cosmetics and ornamentation. War and vanity are the two root causes of godlessness before the flood. That's a damning critique of culture itself.
And we must emphasize the cosmological physics, the hyper-accurate, mechanized 364-day calendar. The fact that 4 specific intercalary days are not reckoned by men, thus causing humanity to go wrong in the whole reckoning of the year, means human moral failure is literally reflected in temporal misalignment, a corrupted cosmic clockwork.
And finally, the dual nature of the ultimate authority, the head of days and the elect one, the Son of Man, who was named and hidden before creation. His explicit mission is to strip the mighty kings of their stolen power and riches, confirming that divine justice overrides all earthly sovereignty and wealth.
Ultimately, this source offers a complete, divinely ordained cosmic map intended to guide the righteous through chaos. And that map contains one final provocative thought that The source material claims that man was created exactly like the angels, pure and righteous, and that death and perishing only came through the forbidden knowledge taught by Penemu, specifically the use of writing with pen and ink.
Right.
If the very act of record-keeping corrupted humanity, substituting fixed symbols for pure spiritual truth, what does that imply about our relationship with information, knowledge, and digital records today?
Something to mull over. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we tear down complex topics and build up simple, actionable blueprints for your life.
And today, we're tackling a big one.
We really are. It's this persistent myth in society that success is some kind of accident.
Yeah.
Like a magical lottery ticket that's just granted by chance or fate.
Right. And that narrative that some people are just lucky, it's comforting, I get it, it lets us all off the hook.
Yeah, it does.
But the core thesis of all our research here is the complete opposite. Every single remarkable achievement, whether it's mastering a skill or building a huge company, it's not fate, it's a creation.
A creation based on things you can see, things you can repeat, decisions, habits, actions.
Exactly.
So our mission today for you is to just extract the absolute best insights from all this material we've gone through and provide a clear roadmap to real success without having to rely on that elusive thing called luck.
And here's the foundational truth, the thing we have to accept before we even start. Luck might, maybe, open a door for you once a decade.
If that.
But the research is just overwhelming. It's discipline, it's strategy, and relentless persistence that actually walked that door.
So if you spend your life waiting for the big break,
you're not building anything. You're buying a fantasy. Success, real success, requires designing your out.
Okay, let's jump right in. We call this first part the inner game. This is where it all begins. It's internal. It happens long before the world ever sees a single result. And it starts with the most crucial first step, that defining decision to win.
And this isn't some motivational motivational cheer you scream in the mirror.
No.
This is a quiet, unwavering commitment. It's that private moment where you just close the back door, you burn the boat. When someone decides to run a marathon, they decide that long before the first training run.
Right. Before the pain, before the work.
When they launch a business, they decide to see it through before the first customer says no.
I think people really underestimate the cognitive load that decision removes.
Say more about that.
Well, if you tell yourself, I'll try my best, you've already given yourself permission to quit when it gets hard.
You've left the back door open.
Exactly. So your mind is constantly arguing with itself. Should I keep going? Is this too difficult?
Whereas when you make that deep, non-negotiable decision, I'm in this until I win no matter what, it just frees up so much mental energy. That clarity sharpens your focus, and it gives you strength against all the fear and the criticism that you know is coming.
And fear is the next big piece, isn't it? You can't execute on that decision if you don't have unshakable self-belief.
Right. And we hear that belief is, something you're born with, but the data just confirms it's something you build, like a muscle.
A dense muscle.
A dense muscle. If you don't believe you can do it, you won't even start. And if you try without real belief, you'll just quit at the first sign of trouble.
So how do you build it? It's not about these massive leaps, is it?
Not at all. You start by confronting that inner critic with truth, with cold, hard evidence.
And that's the key. We're not talking about empty affirmations here. You have to create your own data points. You use small, kept promises to yourself. We call them small wins.
Little promises.
Yeah. You promise to exercise for 10 minutes, and you do it. You promise to send 5 emails, and you do it.
And those little micro achievements, they start creating momentum. And that momentum is the evidence your brain needs to start believing. Confidence isn't built by thinking.
It's built by doing.
It's built by taking action, even when you feel scared and imperfect. You take the step, that action produces a small result, and that result reinforces the belief. It's this powerful upward spiral.
So once that internal engine is running, we get to what I think is the foundation that separates the real achievers from everyone else, taking full responsibility.
For everything, the good and the bad.
This is the hardest one for people to swallow.
It's so hard because it challenges the ego. I mean, the research is crystal clear on the danger of blame. Blaming the market, the economy, your boss.
Your partner not having enough time.
Right. It feels justified in the moment because it lets you off the hook.
But blaming others is like psychological quicksand. It completely steals your power.
How so?
Well, think about it. If someone else or something else is responsible for your situation, then you're powerless. You're just sitting there waiting for a world you can't control to change for you.
And ownership puts you right back in the driver's seat instantly.
Yeah.
But we have to clarify this. It doesn't mean everything that happens to you is your fault. You don't control external events.
Right.
But you are 100% responsible for how you respond to them. You don't control the storm, but you absolutely control your ship.
Let's use that job loss example from the source. It was so stark.
Perfect.
You have two people, they lose their jobs, same day, same industry downturn. Person A blames the economy, blames their old boss, and just spends 6 months angry.
Bitter, watching TV, waiting for the job market to magically get better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And person B takes ownership. They acknowledge the setback, but they say, okay, I am responsible for my next move. And they immediately start updating their skills, they're networking like crazy.
They treat the job search like a full-time project that they direct.
Right. And 6 months later, the difference between them isn't luck. It is an opportunity. It's that internal monologue and the action that came from it. Failure stops being the end.
It just becomes expensive feedback.
That inner commitment is the engine. But once you have it, how do you operationalize? And that takes us right into part 2, the blueprint.
This is all about translating that internal drive into tangible daily results.
And that journey starts with mastering habits.
Your future isn't built in some dramatic moment of inspiration. It's shaped quietly, day by day, through these tiny compounding choices that you over.
Bank account analogy is perfect. Every good habit reading 10 pages, making one sales call is a deposit.
And every negative one is withdrawal.
And the magic is in the compounding. I mean, if you get just 1% better every day for a year, you don't end up 365% better.
You end up 37 times better. It's exponential.
And the progress is invisible at first. You don't see the benefit of that 1 10-minute walk.
But over 5 years, the difference becomes, it's just undeniable. It's massive. And this gets to the crucial trade-off, the thing that separates the successful from the stalled.
Which is?
Bad habits feel good now, but they create pain later. Good habits, they feel uncomfortable or kind of dull now, but they create freedom later.
You have to be willing to pay that short-term price for the long-term reward. So how do we make this practical? The experts warn against the big overhaul. Don't try to change 10 things at once.
It's a recipe for failure. Instead, you identify one or two keystone habits. The habits that, when you do them, they just automatically make other good things easier.
Like a morning workout or tackling your hardest task first thing?
For many people, yes. And critically, you have to design your environment for success. Relying on willpower alone is a fool's errand.
It's exhaustible.
Totally. So if you want to read more, put the book on your pillow. If you want to stop scrolling social media, delete the apps off your home screen. Make the right thing easy and the wrong thing hard. You set yourself up to win automatically.
And designing that environment flows right into the secret weapon of lasting achievement. Consistency, not intensity.
Oh, this is so important. You see people sprint for 2 weeks, they burn out, and they quit. The winner is the person who just shows up every single day, regardless of how they feel.
The heavy flywheel analogy is so good for this.
Explain that.
You've got this massive, solid iron wheel. The first few pushes are just agonizing. It barely moves.
Right. It feels pointless.
But that consistent daily effort, it builds this unstoppable momentum until eventually the turning becomes almost effortless. That daily friction is the cost of entry for momentum.
And because we're all human, we're going to stumble.
Inevitably.
Which is why there's that crucial rule to maintain momentum. Never miss twice. If you fall off track today, you skip the gym, you eat poorly, fine, acknowledge it, but you absolutely must get back on track tomorrow.
That one single act prevents a small stumble from turning into a total collapse of your identity.
Absolutely. So that brings us to how we deploy all this effort. We have to outwork, but also work smart.
Because hard work alone isn't enough. You can grind for 20 hours a day and stay completely stuck if you're pointing your car in the wrong direction.
Or just focusing on low leverage activity.
Working smart starts with radical clarity. Before you dive into your email or your to-do list, you have to ask that one question.
If I could only accomplish one thing today, what would make the biggest difference?
And you put your best energy there first.
And working smart also means finding leverage, getting the maximum result from every bit of effort. And this is mainly in two areas: automating repetitive tasks and delegation.
And delegation isn't just passing off annoying tasks.
No, it's about building repeatable systems and training others so the result gets achieved without requiring your personal attention every single time.
A strategic winner also knows that rest isn't a reward you earn after the work.
It's preventative maintenance that makes the work possible in the first place.
They're disciplined about recovery. They know when to sprint and when to pause, because burnout is the ultimate enemy of consistency.
That's so true. If you sacrifice your sleep for a week, you're not more productive. You're just paying a productivity debt later on. The quality of your work is directly tied to quality rest.
Let's shift now to part 3, the edge. These are the strategies that make sure you don't just achieve success once, but you keep it and accelerate it in a world that's always changing.
The single greatest competitive advantage today isn't talent or connections or even money. It's
the speed at which you can learn, adapt, and grow.
Exact. The best achievers stay perpetually curious. And more importantly, they are willing to unlearn old methods that don't work. They value evolution over being right.
And the fastest way to speed up that learning curve is feedback. The research calls it priceless.
It's a map. It shows you exactly where your blind spots. You shouldn't just wait for it. You should be hunting it down from mentors, from peers,
even from critics.
Especially from critics. And look, it's a difficult truth, but even if feedback stings your ego, it's still the fast growth.
You have to put yourself in that vulnerable position of asking, what am I doing? Slowing me down.
And then the cycle is simple. Learn, apply, refine, repeat.
Now, even with all this prep, life is going to test, and the sources are clear on this. Adversity is not punishment, it is training.
The achiever understands setbacks are just weights in the gym. They build a resilience you couldn't get any other way.
The real power is in the reframe.
Right. Most people, when they face a big setback, they ask the victim question. Why is this happening?
And that question just focuses on pain and blame. It keeps you stuck.
The pivot, the mental shift that defines the winner, is to start asking, how is this happening for me?
That question doesn't erase the pain, but it instantly shifts your mind from blaming the past to leveraging the future.
It forces you to find the lesson, the hidden opportunity. You move from being a victim to being a student.
This connects so deeply to where we place our energy, to the circle of control.
Stress and stagnation are almost always symptoms of focusing on the uncontrollable.
Luck, the past, what other people think, the global economy.
All of it. The sources make this so liberatingly clear. There are only two circles in your life: things you can't control and things you can.
Your effort, your response, your choices, your attitude.
Your preparation.
Yeah.
Winners live strictly in that second circle. So if you find yourself stressing, you have to ask that immediate question: can I directly influence right now?
And if the answer is no,
you redirect that wasted energy back to meaningful action inside your circle of control. It saves so much mental and emotional fuel.
Finally, in this section, we have to talk about the power of your environment. We just become a reflection of the company we keep.
Energy is contagious. Your environment will either pull you up toward your
your goals or it will drag you down into mediocrity. There's really no middle ground.
You have to be incredibly intentional about this.
You do. You have to distance yourself, kindly but firmly, from negativity, from people who complain all the time or settle for less. That energy just drains your tank.
And instead, you have to seek out people with a winning mindset, people who are hungry, who are learning, who are taking bold action.
People who demand more from themselves than you would ever demand from them. Your circle should challenge you and elevate your standards, not just comfort you where you are.
Okay, let's move into our final section, part 4, the legacy. This is about making sure your achievement isn't just a fleeting thing, but something lasting and meaningful.
And it all starts with this simple principle: create value that can't be ignored.
The world rewards value created, not effort, not desire.
Right. If you want lasting success and financial reward, you have to relentlessly focus on solving painful problems for other people or meeting their deep needs.
Money is just a byproduct of that. It's the receipt for the value you contribute.
And if you chase the receipt, it's elusive. If you chase creating massive value, the reward just follows.
Creating that value means developing rare and relevant skills, but it also means being exceptionally reliable.
You have to be the person who shows up prepared, who goes the extra mile, and who brings solutions, not just problems. In a world full of inconsistency, reliability is a rare and highly compensated skill.
And as you build that value, you have to internalize this next instruction. Win quietly and let the results speak.
The analysis warns so strongly against constantly announcing your goals on social media.
That is that.
Because that external validation, it gives you a false sense of accomplishment. It actually steals the internal motivation you need to do the hard, boring, necessary work.
It's a dopamine hit without the effort.
Exact. And the other part is that moving in silence shields you from all the criticism and doubt that surrounds any ambitious goal. True success is built over years of quiet, heads down, consistent work that eventually just becomes
so undeniable that people can't argue with it. They can argue with your words, but they cannot argue with the result.
And when success does come, you have to learn how to scale it without losing yourself.
This is the achievement trap. So many people climb to the top only to realize they sacrifice their peace, their relationships, their values to get.
Scaling requires extreme clarity. You have to define the vision that success is supposed to support, not let success become the vision.
And it requires building systems, delegating, training people, automating processes.
So that your impact can expand without consuming every hour of your life. You have to maintain the foundational habits that got you there in the first place. Success is a process. It's not a finish.
And the final layer of this whole journey is legacy.
The story people tell about you, the impact you leave behind, and it's built daily.
Through your actions, your words, your choice, not some single final event.
Legacy means living with purpose, sharing the wisdom you gain from your struggles, and most importantly, setting a living example. If you want to inspire courage in others, you have to live courageous. That influence lasts.
So this deep dive, it really reinforces these major pillars of achievement. It starts with that inner decision,
which you translate to strategic, consistent action.
And you maintain the edge through relentless learning and total ownership.
Right.
And people on the outside, they can look at your results, your business, your skills, your impact, and they might call you lucky.
They'll think it happened overnight or that you were just in the right place at the right time.
You will know the truth.
You'll know it was created not by chance, but by conscious, deliberate design. Your life is absolutely in your hands. You have the ability to choose, to act, and to persist until you win.
That power is so much greater than any lucky break the world might offer.
So we'll leave you with this final thought, built on this idea of contribution and legacy.
If true, lasting success is measured by the value you contribute to the world, what singular problem are you uniquely prepared to solve right now?
And what small, consistent action will you take today to begin building that undeniable contribution? Go and win by design.
In a time when kings commanded armies and prophets spoke with the voice of heaven, there lived one man who ruled over humans, jinn, animals, and the winds themselves. His name was Suleiman ibn Dawood, Prophet Solomon, peace be upon him. Allah says in the Quran, "We gave Suleiman to Dawood. What an excellent servant. Indeed, he was one repeatedly turning back to us." But Suleiman wasn't just a king. He was a miracle in human form. Today, let's uncover his greatest miracles, one by one, and see why even the winds obeyed him. Miracle number 1, the language of birds. Imagine this. Suleiman is marching with his massive army, humans, jinn, birds. Suddenly, he hears them talking, not in human words, but in their own language. The hoopoe bird cries out, "O Suleiman, I have come to you with important news. I have seen a people ruled by a woman, Queen Bilqis. They worship the sun instead of Allah." Suleiman smiles and says, We shall see if you have told the truth or lied. He turns to the army. Who will bring me her throne before they come to me in submission? A mighty jinn offers, I will bring it before you rise from your place. But a man with knowledge of the book says, I will bring it before your glance returns to you. And in the blink of an eye, it's there. That's the power of Allah's gift to Suleiman. He understood every bird's song, every animal's whisper. Miracle number 2, command over the winds. Suleiman didn't walk or ride, he flew. Allah says, and to Suleiman we subjected the wind. Its morning journey was a month, and its evening journey was a month. His throne was carried by the winds. He could command storms to carry his army across deserts in hours. One day, the wind disobeyed slightly. Suleiman said, return to me submissive. And it did, forever his servant. Miracle number 3, control over jinn and demons. Suleiman ruled over thousands of jinn. They built him palaces, temples, massive statues, things humans couldn't dream of. Allah says, and some of the jinn worked for him by permission of his Lord. They dived into oceans for pearls. They forged iron into unbreakable armor. When he wanted his famous crystal palace built on water, the jinn made it happen overnight. He even had a ring, the seal of Suleiman, that bound any jinn who disobeyed him. Miracle number 4, the ant's warning. Picture this. Suleiman's army is marching through a valley. Suddenly, he hears a tiny voice. O ants, enter your dwellings, so that Suleiman and his soldiers do not crush you without realizing it. He smiles and prays, my Lord, inspire me to be thankful for your favor. Allah gave him ears that heard even the ants beneath his feet. Miracle number 5, the Queen of Sheba's throne. The Hupu's news led to the greatest test. Queen Bilqis, ruler of Sheba, worshipped the sun. Suleiman sent her a letter. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, do not be arrogant toward me, but come to me in submission. She tested him. Bring my throne here. As we said, it appeared instantly. Then she came herself, entered his palace, saw the glass floor that looked like water. She thought it was a pool, lifted her dress to wade through. Suleiman said, it is a palace made smooth with glass. She fell to her knees. My Lord, indeed I have wronged myself, and I submit with Suleiman to Allah, Lord of the worlds. An entire kingdom turned to Allah because of one man's miracles. Voice softens, reflective. These weren't tricks or magic. They were Allah's gifts to a grateful prophet. Suleiman prayed, my Lord, forgive me, and grant me a kingdom such as will not belong to anyone after me. Allah granted it. But Suleiman never forgot. Every miracle was from Allah alone. Brothers and sisters, Suleiman ruled the world, yet he bowed in prayer more than anyone. What about us? We have no kingdoms, but we have the same Lord. Ask for his miracles in your life, health, peace, guidance. But like Suleiman, say, thank you, Allah. If this inspired you, say, Subhanallah right now. Share your favorite miracle in the comments. And subscribe for more stories of prophets who changed the world. Next time, the miracle of Prophet Musa's staff. May Allah grant us strength like Suleiman. Ameen. Allah Hafiz.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. You're in the right place if you want to skip the noise and get straight to the impactful takeaways. Our mission today is a deep dive into something really personal, really practical, the transformative, life-changing impact of learning English.
Yeah, and for this, we've gathered a fascinating collection of sources, mostly direct testimonials and, personal success stories.
Right.
And what we realized is we're not just studying linguistics here.
Right.
We are analyzing a skill that really acts as this universal catalyst. catalyst.
A catalyst, I like that.
It just opens these genuine doors of opportunity, career, travel, knowledge, and even profound internal growth.
Exactly. It's so easy to just focus on vocabulary tests or grammar, but these stories really show us the huge ripple effects that fluency creates. So today, we're going to lay out the specific and I think most surprising benefits these learners uncovered.
From unexpected promotions all the way to fixing home appliances.
Yes, it's a roadmap to being well-informed about the true value of this whole endeavor. So let's unpack this. Let's start where the change is often most immediate and most tangible: professional advancement.
This is compelling. This is where you see English transform from just, a line item on a CV into the direct engine for career acceleration, for leadership. It's the difference between being a capable employee and being truly indispensable.
That distinction is key. We looked at the case of a professional, let's call him Paul, who was working at a regional branch of a large company.
Right.
And things were just ticking along fine until the company landed this massive new international client. A huge project.
And that project immediately created a high-stakes scenario. The source noted that suddenly every essential meeting,
Every single one.
the strategy sessions, the stakeholder check-ins, everything was mandated to be conducted entirely in English. All the critical documents, too.
That creates an immediate knowledge bottleneck, doesn't it? Because while most people on Paul's team had studied English,
Their comfort level was passive.
exactly. Reading emails was fine, but leading a discussion, negotiating in real time, or drafting these complex, nuanced policy documents, that's a whole different ballgame.
And this is where Paul's confidence just shone through. He didn't just speak English. He felt comfortable asserting his ideas, summarizing complex points.
And managing disagreement.
Yes, crucially, managing disagreement across language lines. And because he could confidently lead those interactions, his boss didn't even hesitate.
He was just handed the team leader role.
Just like that. A significant promotion and immediate exposure to upper management he would have never otherwise accessed.
Wow. If you think about the sheer return on investment for his time spent learning, it's astronomical.
Totally.
It wasn't about being the most technically qualified. It was about being the most effectively communicative leader in that global arena.
That's the core realization. English provides a measurable professional edge. It gives you the confidence not just to participate, but to actually drive the conversation forward.
Right.
It moves you from the back of the room to the front.
And that professional confidence, it's directly mirrored in personal independence, especially when we talk about travel.
Oh, for sure. The sources really emphasize that first big memory of traveling alone to an English-speaking country.
That initial step of booking a flight and just landing alone in a foreign country.
Yeah.
It can be terrifying. You're entirely dependent on your own verbal abilities.
Right. And the sources, they noted that initial fear, but the moment the learner was immersed, that necessity to speak every single day.
Ordering a slightly complicated coffee.
Yes. Or asking for detailed directions when your phone dies. All of that instantly builds independence.
It changes from this scary necessity into a joyful realization like, I can handle this. I am self-reliant.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, English removes that fundamental reliance on translators or travel partners. It turns a potential struggle into genuine personal freedom.
And you can actually engage with people.
Yes, you can engage with fellow travelers. The source notes this led to lasting worldwide friendships, not just, transactional tourist interactions.
That freedom and self-reliance.
Yeah.
It's the exact same self-reliance needed to lead that international project we just talked about.
It's a perfect bridge.
Which brings us to our next major theme, informational freedom. We move from physical independence to intellectual independence.
The door to global knowledge and practical problem solving.
This is where we see the immense democratizing power of language.
Absolutely. English has become the default language of technology, of science, of current affairs.
The sources talk about how English unlocks this almost inexhaustible whole new library. And here's the truth of it. The newest research, the most groundbreaking articles,
The best online courses.
they're almost always published first in English. If you have to wait for a translation, you are automatically operating behind the curve.
And that gap can be crucial, especially in fields that change so fast, like programming or medical research. Being fluent grants you access to information in real time.
We had this great specific example. Someone with a passion for sustainable living, eco-friendliness.
Okay.
They struggled to find detailed, cutting-edge information in their native language about things like composting or local sustainable architecture.
And what happened when they searched in English?
A goldmine. They found these niche forums, specialized university resources, and several amazing blogs and online courses that were years ahead of anything translated locally.
Wow.
And the information was so detailed and applicable, it led them to completely overhaul their personal habits. That, they said, was incredibly empowering.
That's the key right there. Application, not just accumulation. But we need to talk about one of the most practical, truly unexpected doors English opens?
This is where it gets really interesting and relatable.
Solving domestic problems.
Yes, one learner detailed the immense frustration of having a really specific issue, a technical glitch with her TV or something mechanical breaking down.
And searching for a solution in your native language gives you nothing.
Silence or unhelpful forum. It's a classic scenario, right?
Yeah.
So in desperation, they translated their specific problem into English and typed it into Google or YouTube.
And the anecdote we have is fantastic.
Their washing machine broke down. It was giving some obscure error code, and a local repair was going to cost a fortune.
Okay, I think I know where this is going.
Searching that obscure error code in English led them directly to a 10-minute YouTube video.
Filmed by some enthusiastic DIY person across the world.
Exactly. Showing them step-by-step how to replace one specific small part.
And they fixed it themselves.
They did. They fixed the machine, saved hundreds, and felt this huge burst of self-reliance. It just shows that English is the default language for most product manuals and complex instructions, too.
So the analysis really shows that English acts as a kind of secret superpower for troubleshooting. It empowers you in the most mundane, practical parts of everyday life.
That real-world utility is so powerful. But we can't forget the profound emotional and social doors that swing open. Let's move into section 3, culture, connection, and entertainment.
This really highlights English's status as a bridge. It connects people from non-English speaking backgrounds who would otherwise never ever share a conversation.
We saw these amazing stories about social circle expansion, using online platforms, language exchange apps.
And the users weren't just talking to native Englishers.
No, they were talking to people from Russia, Argentina, South Korea, France, everywhere.
And those conversations, they quickly move beyond just practicing vocabulary.
Right. They're discussing life philosophy, local politics, history, food. English was the essential common denominator. They called it the perfect bridge.
That is genuine cultural exchange. It fundamentally shrinks the globe. You realize that despite vast distances and different languages, you share these common hopes and anxieties.
And moves the relationship beyond just language practice into real lasting friendships.
And that connection is magnified when you're physically traveling. We heard that delightful anecdote about the hostel experience.
Oh yes, being able to truly interact with people, not just ask for directions. This learner met a group of young travelers, not native English speakers, but speakers of various European languages.
All communicating solely in English.
Solely in English. They spent an evening exploring the neighborhood, shared these incredibly personal stories, and ended up cooking dinner together in the hostel kitchen.
That shared experience, bonded entirely by English, that must have been unforgettable. Imagine missing out on that because of a language barrier.
It enriches the travel experience exponentially. Now let's talk about entertainment.
Yes.
The shift from relying on subtitles and translations is this massive cultural benefit. When you can watch a movie without reading the text below, you get the full performance.
You understand the cadence, the delivery of the jokes, the slang, the true emotion the actor is trying to convey.
Subtitles just flatten the experience, don't they? They force you to prioritize reading over feeling.
It's the same for music. The sources noted that understanding the lyrics makes music so much more meaningful. You connect directly to the artist's message, their poetry, their pain.
And of course, books.
Yes. The ability to read literature in its original form, accessing the author's exact words, appreciating the beauty of language without the filter of translation. It's a whole other layer of cultural access.
Okay, so we've covered the tangible, external benefits, career, travel, fixing appliances, cultural consumption. Now for section 4, which is perhaps the most profound, the internal change, the door to personal transformation.
This section looks inward. It addresses not what you do with the language, but what the process of learning the language does to you, to your personality, your cognitive wiring.
Exactly. The unexpected benefit detailed in the sources was improved flexibility and adaptability. Learning English involves grappling with new ways of structuring thought,
Different grammatical logic, different cultural expectations for politeness or assertiveness.
This is a deep insight into cognitive development. Interacting with diverse cultures means you are constantly practicing patience, adapting your communication style.
And questioning your own native assumptions. In this sense, the journey of learning English inherently shapes you into a more open-minded, well-rounded person, and that's a vital life skill.
And that profound internal shift directly fuels personal confidence. The journey for so many learners starts with them feeling shy, terrified of making mistakes in public.
That fear of error is the biggest barrier, but the perseverance required to force yourself to speak, practice, to inevitably stumble and be corrected, that builds resilience.
You realize that errors are just temporary feedback loops.
Right.
And the lesson learned is fundamental. It's okay to make mistakes as long as you learn from them. That process of overcoming fear grows confidence organically. The result is a more capable person overall.
It teaches them perseverance as a core characteristic. The benefits fundamentally shape you as a person.
And that internal growth leads to the final full circle impact, teaching and helping others. Because the speaker became more confident, friends and family naturally began seeking their help.
Drafting professional emails, translating crucial phrases.
It became clear that the benefit wasn't just individual, it created this positive ripple effect. The source detailed how this informal helping eventually led to that speaker getting formally involved in teaching.
Which became the origin story for a highly popular learning resource, what they referenced as the Mr. English channel.
That is an incredibly powerful narrative arc. It went from personal learning to self-reliance to professional leadership and finally to teaching and making a positive impact on thousands.
So to summarize for you, the learner, the journey is truly transformative. Every small step, whether it's understanding a phrase or trying a new conversation, contributes to opening not just one door, but a whole series of doors in your life.
And that's the perfect note to end on. It doesn't have to be some dramatic change overnight. Understanding one crucial lyric, reading a simple article, or having that short, unscripted conversation, those are all powerful doors opening up.
Absolutely. The consistency is what counts.
So let's leave you with this final provocative thought, drawing on those powerful anecdotes about self-reliance. We heard how English can act as a secret superpower for fixing physical objects and technical issues, like that broken washing machine. So consider this. What metaphorical problems in your professional career, or maybe what complex knowledge gap in your personal life, could that same access to global information help you troubleshoot and solve right now? Think about the power of access. Keep practicing, keep learning, and keep opening those doors. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive. Welcome back to The Deep Dive. Today, we are tackling one of the biggest requests we get from you, our listeners.
Yep.
You want the fastest route to high-value practical knowledge. So we're diving deep into everyday psychological shortcuts.
These are the latest findings, the little behavioral facts you can start using right away.
To instantly improve your mood, your relationships, your focus, all of it.
That's the whole idea. We've sifted through a ton of studies to get past the, the abstract theories.
Right.
We're focusing purely on things you can do today. Think of them as like cognitive levers. You pull the lever, you see a shift.
I like that. So for our approach today, we're starting inward. How things like sound and light can literally rewire your brain.
And then we'll move outward.
Straight into relationship hacks. The little tricks that can boost your social influence and rapport. So let's get into it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start with something we all have access to. Music.
Right?
We all get that music changes our mood. Sad song, you feel sad.
Yeah.
But the research we found suggests it's much more than that.
It is.
It's this idea of a perceptual expectation filter. I mean, how can a sound wave change how you literally see the world?
It's a fascinating and a really powerful cognitive bias. There was this 2011 study.
Okay.
They showed participants these ambiguous faces, faces that could be a little happy or a little sad.
Hard to read.
Exactly. And while they were looking at them, they were listening to different music.
And I'm guessing what they heard changed what they saw.
Instantly. When they heard sad music, that minor key stuff, they overwhelmingly saw the sad face.
Wow.
Then you switch to happy, upbeat music, and suddenly they're seeing joy. Your brain, it really doesn't like dissonance.
So it's trying to match everything up.
It is. The sound sets an expectation, and your brain actively starts hunting for visual proof that matches what you're hearing.
That's incredible. So if you're out for a run and you put on some high energy music, you're not just motivating yourself.
No, you're actually forcing your brain to see the world, the street, the distance, your own effort through this optimistic high energy filter.
You're programming your reality.
You really are. And on the flip side, if you need to focus on a report, don't put on something aggressive.
Right.
You switch to something soft, ambient. You're telling your brain, this is a calm, focused zone, and it anchors your attention.
This connects so well to our physical state. So let's talk about stress. You're nervous. Maybe you have a big presentation. The sources say that just singing can completely reset your system. How does that work?
It's purely neurochemical. I mean, think about it. Singing forces you to control your breath.
Okay.
And that very specific physical act, it triggers a hormone release in your brain and body. The main one is oxytocin.
The bonding hormone.
The bonding, the trust hormone, exactly. And when that's released, it rapidly lowers your stress.
So you're not just distracting yourself from being nervous, you're actually fighting the stress response on a chemical level.
You're actively counteracting it. And crucially, it also lowers your cortisol.
That's the bad one.
That's the stress hormone that makes your heart pound and your palms get all sweaty. So you lower the cortisol, you raise the oxytocin, and boom, you get this rapid shift towards feeling calm and confident.
It's like a biological reset button.
1,000 times more effective than just telling yourself to calm down.
Which never works.
Never works. And while deep breathing is good, singing it engages your whole respiratory system in a way that just amplifies the whole process.
Okay, so from sound to light, the sun.
Ah, the big one.
Everyone knows that stepping outside on a sunny day just feels good.
But what's the actual science behind that?
It really comes down to vitamin D. When we get sun exposure, our body produces it, and it's way more than just a vitamin. It acts like a hormone.
A mood regulator.
It's a crucial mood regulator, yeah. It helps trigger the release of those feel-good hormones in your brain, and that stabilizes your emotional baseline.
And the global data on this is pretty stark, right?
It really is. I mean, you see study after study showing that countries with less sunlight, especially in the winter, have way higher rates of depression symptoms.
So what's the actionable tip here?
Be deliberate. Don't just go outside sometimes. Aim for about 10 minutes of direct sun. No sunglasses if you can.
Just 10 minutes.
10 minutes a day. And morning sun is best because it also helps set your circadian rhythm. That means better sleep, more energy. It's foundational stuff.
All right, let's shift from the physical to the cognitive. And this next one, this is one of the most counterintuitive facts we came across.
It's a good one.
That highly intelligent people often genuinely believe they are below average. Why would intelligence breed self-doubt?
It's because they're constantly aware of the scale of things.
What do you mean?
The truly intelligent person, they understand how vast the ocean of knowledge really is. So every new thing they learn it shines a light on 100 more things they don't know.
They're always aware of their own ignorance.
Exactly. And that leads to this perpetual feeling that they're underperforming or that they could be better. They're just never satisfied.
That sounds honestly kind of exhausting.
It can be, but it's also the engine of progress. And the research shows this stark contrast with people of, say, more average intelligence.
Who often think they're amazing.
They often have what's called illusory superiority. They consistently think they're much better than they are. That need to show off how smart you are is often just a cover.
This totally explains that friend we all have, the one who gets an A on the test, but spends the whole week saying, I'm going to fail, I didn't study.
Yes. That friend genuinely believes they could have done better, even when they're at the top. That dissatisfaction is actually a key marker of high intelligence. It's what keeps them learning.
That is a powerful idea. Okay, let's use that to talk about the hardest cognitive challenge of all, building new habits.
Yeah.
So talk about the 21-day habit myth. It's everywhere, and it's just wrong. You get to day 22, it's still hard, and you feel like a failure.
Because the goalpost was in the wrong place to begin with. The neurophysiological research is so clear on this.
So what's the real number?
To really form a solid, unconscious habit, it takes about 66 days.
66?
Wow.
That's 3 times longer.
It is. And understanding the phases is key.
Okay, walk us through it. The 66 days.
So the first 15 days, that's the conscious forcing stage. It feels really uncomfortable. You're using a ton of willpower.
You're fighting your old self.
You really are.
Yeah.
Then you hit the middle, the next 22 days. So roughly day 16 to 37. This is the psychological gauntlet.
This is the hard part.
This is the hardest part. Your chance of quitting is highest right here because you're tired. But the new habit isn't automatic yet. It just feels like a daily battle.
And that's right where the 21-day myth leaves you hanging.
Precisely. But if you can push through that middle part, the last phase, up to day 66, that's where the magic happens. The new pathway connects. It becomes part of you. Automatic. Effortless.
Let's move into the social world. Relationship hacks. And the first one is maybe the simplest. Call people by their name.
So simple. So powerful.
Why does hearing our own name have such a strong effect on us?
Because your name is, it's the most fundamental sound in your entire world. It defines you. Hearing it actually activates a reward center in your brain.
It's literally a favorite song.
It really is. And so when you use someone's name, not like over and over, but just naturally.
Right, not like a used car salesman.
No, exactly. But when you use it intentionally, they feel seen, they feel important. And the opposite is true too. Forgetting a name feels like a real insult.
Okay, so from talking to not talking. The power of silence. This feels like a conversational magic trick. How does saying nothing get you more information?
It all comes down to the fact that people hate awkward silence. They can't stand it.
It's true.
So the trick is you ask a question, they answer, and then you hold eye contact, you stay calm, and you just wait for maybe 3-4 seconds.
And what happens in that gap?
They'll rush to fill it. They assume you're waiting for more, so they just start talking again. They'll add details they were holding back or clarify something. It's amazing for when someone is being a bit guarded.
That's a great tool. Now, what about guiding decisions? The sources call this the waiter strategy.
Yes.
How do you get someone to do what you want, but make them feel like it was their idea?
You frame the choice. You only give them 2 options, and you make sure both of those options lead to the outcome you want.
So instead of asking my kid, can you please do your homework?
Right. Which can lead to no.
I'd say, what?
You'd say, do you want to start with your English homework or your math homework first?
So either way, they're doing homework.
Either way, homework is happening. But they feel like they had control, they made the choice, it gets rid of that decision paralysis and gives them that little hit of autonomy.
Okay, next up, making a great impression. The advice here is to talk about what they're passionate about, but And this is the key. Pretend you know less than you do.
Right, play a little dumb.
Why does that work so well?
Because you're handing them the expert role. You're giving them the floor. By asking questions and showing real interest, you let them be the star. You make them feel smart and confident, and people love that.
So instead of trying to impress them with what I know,
You let them impress you, and they'll walk away from that conversation thinking you are brilliant.
because I make them feel good about themselves.
Exactly. It reminds me of that quote from the Dalai Lama in the sources.
Oh, yeah.
When you talk, you only repeat what you already know. But if you listen, you can learn something.
That's perfect. Okay, now for a really weird one. Eating stops conflict.
Yes, this one's great.
If things are getting heated in a group, why does pulling out a bag of chips change everything?
Because eating is biologically a passive calming activity. Evolutionarily, you just don't fight while you're eating. It's a signal of safety.
So the act itself is like a psychological de-escalation tool.
100%. If a conflict is starting, you can either start snacking yourself or even better, offer the aggressive person some food, a chocolate, a piece of gum, anything.
It just shifts the whole dynamic.
It totally short circuits that confrontational energy. It's remarkably effective.
Okay, last one in this section, the chameleon effect. How do we build that instant unconscious rapport?
This is all about subtle mimicry. You lightly copy the other person's body language or their verbal text.
So if they lean in, I lean in a little.
Little, yeah. Or if they use a certain word a lot, you might use it once in your response. The key is it has to be subtle.
They can't know you're doing it.
They cannot, but their unconscious mind picks up on it. It registers that you are similar, that you're in sync, and it creates this deep subconscious feeling of comfort and connection. They just feel like they like you and they won't know why.
Let's wrap up with the ultimate cognitive reality check. And this one might change how you structure your entire workday.
It should.
Multitasking is a myth. It just is. So why do we all insist we can do it?
Because our brains are incredibly good at faking it. We feel like we're multitasking, but what we're actually doing is attention switching.
Rapidly switching back and forth.
Incredibly rapidly. But the brain can only truly focus on one cognitively demanding thing at a time. So when you think you're writing an email and listening to a call,
You're just doing both of them badly.
exactly. And that switching itself has a huge cognitive cost. Every time you switch, you lose a little focus, a little time. It burns you out so much faster.
So there are no exceptions.
Well, the only exceptions are for things that are completely automatic. On autopilot. You can walk and talk.
Or fold laundry while you watch TV.
Right. But anything that needs real brain power analysis, writing, learning it needs your full singular attention.
Yeah.
The best productivity hack is to stop trying to do two things at once. Hashtag, tag, outro.
So we've covered 12 pretty powerful shortcuts today.
Correct.
From using music to literally change what you see,
To using a piece of chocolate to stop a fight.
to building that instant connection through mirroring. These are all things you can go out and use, like right now.
And just remember, this isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding how people tick. It's about fostering better outcomes for everyone.
So start small. Maybe try the waiter strategy tonight when you're making plans.
Or just be mindful of that 66-day rule for a habit you're trying to build.
All right, now for our final provocative thought for you to take away this week. It builds on that idea of intelligent doubt.
The fact that the smartest, most expert people are the ones who are never satisfied with what they know.
There's always questioning, always feeling like they could be better.
So if that persistent dissatisfaction is the true sign of expertise and the engine for growth,
Then what does that tell you about your own life? How can you reframe that little voice in your head, the one that says, I don't know enough?
how can you reframe that not as a weakness, but as your greatest strength, as the fuel for your own learning journey?
That's the mindset we want you to try on this week.
Just apply one of these ideas and see what happens.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.